where Nancy Ubered for dinner the night before she disappeared. Her son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, driving her home that night.
Fox's Alicia Acuna in Tucson. This is as the FBI's released a new video of a masked person with what appears to be a gun in a holster outside Nancy Guthrie's front door on the night she disappeared. The person was wearing a ski mask and a backpack. The brief video clip does not show Nancy Guthrie. Fulton County, Georgia Chair Rob Pitts reacting after the FBI announced it's investigating what it calls possible deficiencies or defects in the vote count in the 2020 election in that county.
Fulton County's 2020 elections, they've been examined, they've been re-examined, they've been audited, there have been hand counts under microscope. And in every instance, we come up clean.
President Trump lost Georgia in 2020, but has made unsubstantiated claims of fraud. The FBI seized hundreds of boxes of ballots after searching the election center earlier this year. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz says the immigration crackdown in his state could end soon, adding he spoke with administration officials, including Border Czar Tom Homan. Walz saying he hopes for cooperation on joint investigations into the shooting of 2 people in his state by federal officers. America's listening to Fox News.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take Dayquil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the Dayquil.
Undo your flu symptoms with Dayquil Intense Flu. Dayquil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
Dayquil Intense Flu, the daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Coach! The yellow light!
I'm walking here! I'm walking!
Good afternoon and welcome to the Jason Rantz Show. We are here on Seattle Red 770 AM, streaming online at seattlered.com from the Fox News studios in New York City, where I'm broadcasting today and tomorrow. We got a lot to get to. The latest in Epstein Files controversy. Howard Lutnick has spoken. He has, in fact, visited Epstein Island with a huge caveat. Lauren Simonetti from Fox Business will stop by. But first, Linwood PD and the city of Linwood acting pretty irresponsibly. And that's what's trending. Brought to you by Legacy Group Capital, Common Sense Lending.
What's trending? Snohomish County.
So we've got a situation happening in the city of Linwood where police and the mayor appear to be urging residents to call 911 if they see anyone they think might be ICE agents in the area. Yet they're labeling it, the way they're talking about it is suspicious unmarked vehicles. And that's the premise of this story. Essentially, a city, in an effort to reaffirm support for so-called inclusivity and transparency, while essentially encouraging people to keep an eye on federal agents and report them needlessly. And let's just be honest about what this does. It doesn't keep people safe. It doesn't strengthen public trust. It does what the activists in Minneapolis and others around the country have been accused of doing, which is turning everyday citizens into these quote-unquote legal observers or reporters or stalkers of law enforcement. And what that does is invites fear, suspicion, confrontation, and that's just wildly irresponsible. It's just wildly irresponsible. And so according to Como TV, Mayor George Hurst and the Chief of Police Cole Langdon have supposedly addressed the community, welcoming people from all backgrounds and stands against violence, such as what was witnessed in Minneapolis. So they're a little late to this ball game. But they say Mayor Hurst and Chief Langdon said, we're going to follow the law, the Keep Washington Working Act, which is our state law that prevents any kind of assistance to federal law enforcement as it relates to immigration. This is our sanctuary law. And they say residents are urged to call 911 if they encounter suspicious activity or unmarked vehicles in the community. Now, if the city actually said this, because they're not quoting the city at all in this, so we're taking Como's word for this. But if that's the way they're framing it, it's intended to get around specifically saying you should keep tabs on ICE or CBP or any federal law enforcement. Because like, well, no, what we're simply saying with a wink and a nod that if you see suspicious activity, we would always tell you to report suspicious activity. But it's just so disingenuous. And what's specifically shocking, I guess, about this is that we expect police departments to be institutions that try to keep the peace, like calm people down, and filter the legitimate public safety concerns from hysteria. But when the police are telling people to call 911, essentially anytime they see ICE or think they see ICE or federal law enforcement, they're effectively deputizing civilians to treat federal agents as if somehow they're criminals, which they're obviously not. They're going after the criminals, which is precisely what Linwood PD should be allowed to do, but aren't. Now, if there's a legitimate public safety concern, like a crime in progress, a threat to life, then yeah, you call 911. That's common sense. That's common practice. You don't really have to tell people that. But being told to call 911 on the sight of a federal badge or someone who's in an unmarked vehicle because they're trying not to bring attention to the fact that they're trying to arrest a rapist or a murderer, that is undermining to the principle of a crime in progress being reported. It blurs the line between crimes in progress and simply disagreeing with a policy coming from the federal government. And sorry, I don't think public safety should be a function of political messaging in this way. It's one thing for departments to put out their silly statements to reaffirm their commitment to the communities. That's political. No one actually reads that anyway. It's done on their Facebook pages or X accounts. People don't follow them. But this goes one step further if the reporting from Como is accurate. And, George Hirsch should know better. The police chief should obviously know better. These are experienced professionals. I think the mayor, not when he was mayor, but when council, wasn't he on the show a few times? He seemed reasonable. If I'm thinking of the same person, we're going to reach out to them and hopefully one will come on to maybe clarify what it is they're trying to do here and what it is they're saying. And I'm hoping that Como is just overstating their statements, but it just feels like they're doing the whole wink and a nod so that they can get away from any kind of scrutiny from people like me calling out what they're doing while telling the activists, don't worry, we've got your back. And we've seen what happens in places like Minneapolis under the activist cause here, where you've got one woman who clearly tried to run over a federal agent, another one who appears to have clearly tried to get in the way of an ICE or CBP incident, an arrest. And what happened to those two people was tragic. We'd prefer that not happen, but it happened because they interfered, which is what it sounds like Linwood PD is trying to get them to engage in. And I just think that that's wrong. And it's going to lead to more confrontations, which you don't want, unless, of course, you're a radical leftist who benefits politically from these kinds of interactions. There are a whole bunch of people who pretend that they cared about Renee Good and Alex Preddy, when the reality is they push them into their actions that ended up getting them killed, and then they use it to benefit politically off of. It is pretty disgusting. It's really disgusting. Let's find out what else is trending.
What's trending? Let's get political.
So earlier today, there was a House committee hearing as they investigate left-wing organizations pouring money into these various intentional acts of in some cases, just chaotic activism, the kind of stuff that we've seen on the ground. But I would go as so far as to say domestic terrorism in cases where violence is being used. And they were focusing not just on left-wing dollars coming from groups, but left-wing dollars coming from overseas. I mean, the whole title of this hearing earlier this morning, it started about 7 o'clock our time, was Foreign Influence in American Nonprofits, Unmasking Threats from Beijing and Beyond. And it's obviously not just Beijing. Russia plays a role in this, but the House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith of Missouri, he went after these groups by name and pointed out that they have ties, he says, to hostile foreign governments.
Several, including Alliance for Global Justice, which I called on the IRS.
And Jackson, if I may, because I do like Jason, he's been on the show before. Okay? Mm-hmm. So please understand, I say this lovingly. I wish he sounded a little tougher.
I was thinking the exact same thing when I was polling this.
just a little.
He sounds like a little
tougher.
skeevy kind of.
Yeah, and again, we are born with these voices. We have high-pitched voices. I'm certainly one of them. I don't think I sound very particularly tough, but I could act, I think, a little bit better and really do this with my voice, and it maybe seems legitimate.
To revoke the tax-exempt status of are suspected of having ties to terrorist groups and using those close connections to funnel resources to support terrorism. Groups like Sammy Dune, a sham charity affiliated with the PFLP and designated as a terrorist organization by the U.S. Treasury. These are all facts. This is reality. Other tax-exempt organizations are masking. They're masking the flow of foreign money by allowing separate entities to utilize their tax-exempt status in order to hold riots across the United States, featuring intimidation and violence. Many of these groups, like American Muslims for Palestine, were contributors to the harassment and violence towards Jewish students.
And this is not necessarily new, but it seems to have gotten worse over the last 6 years or so. The first term for President Trump, I don't recall having a lot of this. Some of it existed, no doubt, but it wasn't reaching that sort of critical mass where it ended up contributing so negatively to our culture and to our politics. But the COVID era with BLM, when we really started to see the power of these left-wing groups, that's when this all started to be really, really obvious. And it's not just intended to create chaos on the ground for the sake of creating chaos on the ground. It's to influence our elections.
One foreign national, a Swiss billionaire, gave over $200 million to a 501c3 foundation and related 501c4 to help, quote, Democrats win the White House and control of Congress. Many of these tax-exempt groups also have documented ties to hostile foreign governments, like the Chinese Communist Party.
And just keep all of this in mind as we hear from Democrats complain about big dollars and dark money, et cetera. They are the kings and queens of that. Let's find out what else is trending.
What's trending? The economy.
I'm broadcasting here in New York at Fox News headquarters, which means I always get to hang out with my favorite people, Lauren Simonetti from Fox Business. Thanks for stopping by.
We love to see you in person.
I love to see you in person.
Welcome
we never
to
get to see each
frigid
other.
New York. Where is it colder?
Definitely here.
Although
today wasn't too bad. This morning when I came into the studio, it was like 22 degrees, which it's
warm.
Cold, but it's warmer than what it was yesterday and over the weekend. When I got in, it was like 12 degrees. I'm like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah,
too much.
Sorry.
Why'd you do that? Why'd you do it?
Well,
and why can't you guys clear the snow?
I forget. It's true.
Mom Donnie?
I forget what sunshine feels like. But the first day, maybe it hits 40. It's going to be like a summertime party across the city.
Exactly. Tank tops are out, shorts and sandals. I love it. So let's talk a little business. Some interesting data points out there. Dow doing well. Retail confidence, not so much. The job market, we expect, is going to continue to cool and stall. So first, sort of big picture, where do we stand?
Well, it's a tough one because you do have the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the 30 iconic stocks that we like to look at as a gauge for the economy at, a record high, 50,500. And the president of the United States is saying by the end of my term, January 2029, it's going to double. Dow 100,000. How do you double the Dow Jones Industrial Average? We'll see. He wants to do it by the end of his first term, but he's got a lot to do before the midterm elections in November because you said it. Retail sales, during the key holiday month of December when everybody's like shopping, they were flat from November and they were up 2.4% from a year ago. Sounds okay, but it was so much slower than in the previous month. Prices are still high. If you ask people, they say, well, we're struggling, et cetera, et cetera. I always question the consumer surveys because I don't think many people will ever say, oh, everything's great. I'm rolling in the dough.
We're naturally pessimistic people.
So I say that with a caveat. But yes, inflation is higher than it should be. The job market is slowing. AI is a big part of that story. And, we held back our spending in December. So there are certainly yellow flags out there.
Well, and the Trump administration is obviously banking on a boost in April with the refund checks.
Yes.
What that looks like, I don't know. Isn't there now talk of like an additional $1,000 check to eligible families?
Yeah, he wants to get the money out there and in your pocket so the economy looks good, you feel good, and Republicans can win in November. He needs the Supreme Court to help him a little bit when they rule on the tariffs, because so far the tariffs have brought in almost $300 billion. If you look at these trade deals with other countries, we're talking $5, $6, $10 trillion all coming into the U.S.
And depending on how they rule, this could be catastrophic. I can't imagine them saying you've got to return the money. I don't even know what the mechanism is for something like that. And anyone who listened to the oral arguments, they clearly were leaning towards being against the tariff plan. But again, sometimes hard to read how they're going to end up ruling, because as much as we want to say that they're above politics, they're not. No one is.
It seems like they're pushing this decision as far away as they can. Maybe they split the difference. Maybe they say everything stays as is, but going forward, you can't do X, Y, and Z. Anyway, the president needs the economy to be working for regular Americans, and he needs money to continue to come in. So hopefully, when you start to file your taxes, you will see bigger paychecks.
Tariffs aside, with the one big beautiful bill, there are still going to be refunds that get sent in or returned, I suppose. Yes. Is that putting kind of a Band-Aid on a bullet hole when it comes to consumer confidence? It gives you some confidence. It gives off the appearance that you're more comfortable, because you are technically more comfortable, but that's going to be short-lived, potentially.
Could it be a Band-Aid? Sure. But I think if you're continuously taking home more money because you're paying less in taxes and you have job security, I think that is more than a Band-Aid.
So at the same time, though, you point out AI's role in the economy. It's completely reshaping our industry. We all should have seen this coming. Many of us for years talked about it without actually talking about AI. And I remember 10 years ago with the $15 Now movement in Seattle, I was saying at the time, y'all are pushing for $15 instead of going at the underlying issue, because if I can get your job done by a Keurig instead of a live barista, we're doing checkout, self-checkout at groceries, like, you're putting yourself out of work. And of course, businesses will choose automation, which they don't get sick. They don't gossip. They don't take time off. They're working 24/7. You don't have to worry as much about, the sexual harassment training. So
100%.
Why not?
Well, they break, and you do need an engineer or a roboticist to fix them. So that's one job.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, we already saw going down this road.
I try to be positive about the AI is coming for us narrative, because I think that AI will take our jobs to the next level and create jobs we didn't even know existed by giving us so much information and doing so much work for it that it frees us up to do other things. If you look at Indeed.com, their job postings, 1 in 25 listings in December and January, 1 in 25 had the word AI in it. AI skills needed in data management and human resources, you name it. I use AI every single day.
Yeah, we all do.
This is recent for me. You've been using it for a while?
Well, for a while, probably the last year.
I'm obsessed with agentic AI.
Okay, I don't know that one.
For instance, if you're shopping, you can ask a chatbot to find you something and recommend something. Just like that. They do it. It's easy. Sometimes you'll see ads in the future.
Should help the consumer.
And then they're showing you more stuff that you could buy. But I mean, this is useful stuff. And going back to Wall Street, we had a huge sell-off the past couple of days because there was a software scare that these coding agents were so good that they were replacing a lot of the technology, the software technology. Yeah. So you saw over a period of time, $2 trillion in value wiped out because of this. Some of those names are coming back today. Look, it's here. It's here to stay. AI will touch every corner of the universe. There will be jobs, but the jobs will be different, you know? And right now you have companies like Target, for one, just yesterday, laying off 500 workers, mostly supply chain and white-collar workers, as they invest in AI. It's a way to, gloss it over. Oh, well, we aren't cutting this, but we're investing in this. So your experience is going to be better.
And the truth is also, that, not to put lipstick on a pig here, but I mean, Amazon lets a bunch of people go. It's driven primarily by AI. It was a lot of overcorrecting as well during COVID. They had a lot of hiring. But letting people go now, a year from now, they could be bringing in, to your point, newer workers to work on jobs they didn't know they needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazon fascinates me. So between October and now, 30,000 job cuts?
Yeah, a little more than that.
At the same time, they're spending was it $200 billion on artificial intelligence
I don't remember,
this year?
but yeah, I mean, they're pouring money into AI. Same with Microsoft and Meta and Google.
$650 billion between those big four names. That's their cap, $650 billion 1 year to boost AI infrastructure. You know, keep it here in the U.S. That's what I say. Make NVIDIA one of the poster child for this success. It's just an eye-popping amount of money because nobody wants to fall behind, and they see where the world is going. And we have a front row seat. I think it's really cool.
Look, I mean, it's really interesting until it impacts people you know or yourself, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, not so cool. But if we step back and we look at what it can do and the possibilities from the, not to call it completely frivolous, but the frivolous stuff on like the shopping stuff to the just having control over health and medicine and your own records. I've been looking into like ChatGPT Health is fascinating to me because I've already kind of used it for that. But now it's being built for that specifically.
Starbucks. Never thought this. I mean, they basically want Starbucks new management to become like the Friends coffee shop, right? Where they used to go and congregate, free refills, stay, sit a while. But they're using artificial intelligence. Pay attention at the drive-thru. They're piloting certain voice activation software.
Really?
And then they're using it in the back end. So they want more workers to help you and make you feel welcome. But those workers are using AI. So it's all about how it's being placed right now to make people feel like there's still engagement with other people and not just systems and robots. So you want the warm feel. Right. You don't want to notice the AI running in the background.
I feel like it can go either way. The second you realize that AI is talking to you, or you don't get from it what you want, then you're already upset.
They have not mastered it on a customer call.
Yeah.
You know, and you're trying to get, I'm like, human, 000. I have never gotten
customer
anything
service.
Nothing has been fixed with a computer or AI.
It's
on
remarkable
one of those calls.
how in that world, on customer service, it is so bad. It is so bad.
Right?
And it's almost, I'm starting to guess it's by design. They just want you to give up and stop calling.
I don't give up.
Well, you don't. I don't. But a lot of people do. I can't remember who I was calling. I think it was Delta, actually. Just trying to get someone on the line. It's like,
human,
geez.
representative.
Let's switch gears briefly. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick answered some questions that I think were fair to ask. He previously said he had no contact after, I think it was 2005, with Jeffrey Epstein. That was not true.
Right.
He did, in fact, visit the island. Now, where I start to defend anyone almost who gets just named and people say, well, because he's in there. I mean, well, okay, hold on. Being named in the files does not mean any kind of guilt. And people immediately said, well, he visited Epstein Island, so clearly he was doing it for nefarious purposes. That's not what he ended up saying today.
Howard Lutnick says, yes, I have met over the past 15 years with Jeffrey Epstein maybe 3 times. We were not friends. I did have lunch with him at his private island with my 4 children and my wife. So
Does that end it? Or
I don't think anything will end this in the immediate future, but I think that gives it some context.
It does, but it shows you, I think, how political this has become, because they immediately said, oh, no, he should resign. Not that anyone takes Thomas Massie seriously, except weirdly liberals all of a sudden. But he said, oh, no, you should resign over this. Make it easy on the... Why would he resign over this? I understand, and maybe this makes me unpopular for defending this. I understand why people are pretending that they never knew Jeffrey Epstein. Like, I get that. Now, I do think there's a difference between post-conviction, pre-conviction, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also, not naive. Wealthy, powerful people, no matter their background,
stick together.
They do.
Know each other.
They talk to each other. They help each other. People are going to, stay in contact with him because they think it could help him or them. I'm not naive to that. I'm not going to pretend that somehow it might be unethical or immoral, and I think it is generally, but it's not illegal.
No, it's not illegal. Nor should he resign. I didn't even know people were calling for him to resign because of this. Thank you for letting me know that.
Thomas Massie.
Okay, you see a lot of names here.
Well, when are we going to have the conversation about Stacey Plaskett, who's currently serving? I mean, the left who's using this, they don't realize that the same level of scrutiny and smearing can happen against them. And there's a lot of evidence in the files so far making them seem worse than the Republicans. Partial evidence. We don't have the full context. I'm not going to pretend to have gone through 6 million documents like many media outlets are having their voices. Oh, yeah, we've poured through the documents. No, you haven't. Stop that. You've
maybe
AI
looked at, did.
Yeah, AI to a point, but because you don't know what's in the files, you don't know what to ask AI.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of the lies around this. I'll give you the last word.
This is a story that I have largely I'm not going to lie, I'm not interested in this story. I'm trying to figure out why I'm so not interested. I think exactly what we said. I expect people of certain stature to know each other and hang out. Did certain people know that something was going on? Absolutely. But then are you going to be the whistleblower on all of this? Maybe you should be, but a lot of people weren't.
Yeah.
So wrongs were done, but...
No, I'm in that same camp. Lauren Simonetti from Fox Business, as always, thank you for stopping by. Good to actually see you in person this time. You're listening to The Jason Rantz Show.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter.
Hey, it's Jason Rantz here. The stock market soared last year, and a lot of that was driven by AI and the tech sector. And for many of you, if not most of you, you were left behind. Seems many of you were left behind because there was nearly $8 trillion in cash sitting on the sidelines with investors nervous or unsure where to put it. That's where my show sponsor comes in, Legacy Group Capital, LegacyG.com. Now is the moment to get intentional about a strategy this year. It's also a smart opportunity to protect gains and move part of your portfolio into something stable. Legacy Group Capital, they're based in Bellevue. They focus on local real estate development, private lending, and the sharing of profits with investors. That could be you. It's a way to diversify without chasing the next overheated trend. You can invest in Legacy Group Capital's Northwest Fund. They're currently offering a fixed 9% rate of return, and yes, IRAs are accepted. More than 1,300 local investors have already invested over $350 million with Legacy Group Capital. If you want to learn more, and you should, go to LegacyG.com or call 425-635-4700. 425-635-4700 or LegacyG.com.
For almost 50 years, over 90,000 homeowners have trusted Home Comfort Alliance, including me. John Curley here. If comfort and energy savings matter to you, now you can save up to $2,000 on new heating and cooling systems. Home Comfort Alliance will replace your old system with one tailored to your home's layout while optimizing efficiency. Visit homecomfortalliance.com. Save up to $2,000 and schedule a free consultation. For heating, cooling, plumbing, or electrical, call the Comfort People. Home Comfort Alliance.
Do you like helping others? Become a Shiva volunteer. In Pierce County, join the hundreds of volunteers across Washington state who help over 90,000 people each year with their Medicare options and questions. You don't have to know Medicare. We'll teach you. And if you're bilingual, even better. For more information and how to apply, call Shiva at 1-800-562-6900 or go to insurance.wa.gov.
Sponsored by the Office of the Insurance Commissioner and aired by the Washington State Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Cold is leaking and rats are moving and mold is creeping and water seeping in. It's hard to be a homeowner, we know.
Without American Crawl Space and Pest Services, it is hard to be a homeowner. Dave Ross here. American Crawl are the heroes to call for insulation and pest issues because in addition to their great reviews and decades of experience, they also give out the most PSE insulation rebates of any insulation company in the state.
American Crawl, the heroes you call.
Get your free inspection at AmericanCrawl.com.
This hour of the Jason Rantz Show is brought to you by General Transmission Repair.
Welcome back to the Jason Rantz Show here on Seattle Red 770 AM, online at seattlered.com. I am broadcasting from New York City today, and tomorrow will be my last day out here as I'm on CNN for Abby Phillip News Night. I was on last night for 2 hours debating a bunch of liberals who were yelling at me, and that was a whole lot of fun. And we've got clips on our social media channels, so just check out Jason Rantz Show on Facebook or Jason Rantz on Instagram or X or YouTube. There is a pattern in how the media talks about election integrity, and dare I say, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't unring that bell. That anytime Republicans propose even the most basic common sense guardrails around voting, what the press does, left-wing media, will frame it as some sort of looming threat to democracy. Not even just, well, it's a controversial policy that not everyone agrees with. No. They don't even accept that it's a debate worth having. It is immediately seen and presented as a threat, something dark and dangerous that voters should fear. And I saw this story in the Seattle Times, although in fairness, it wasn't a Seattle Times story. It was them republishing something from the Washington Post, but it was about how there's going to be a fundamental shift in how we vote because Republicans are pushing this new example that will, quote, dramatically change the way you cast ballots. Drastically. That's the word they choose, drastically. And if you only read the framing, you might think we're talking about like literacy tests or poll taxes or armed guards. Last night on CNN, we're like, oh, we're talking about putting the military at polling places. No, we're not. No one is saying that. You're saying that. You're saying that. Some people say, hey, maybe it would be a good idea. But the Trump administration is not saying that. But if you just read the framing of the headline, that's how you might think what we're dealing with. When you actually read what it is they're describing, the radical proposals, the threat to democracy boils down to two really simple things. You've got to be a U.S. citizen to vote in a federal election, and you have to prove who you are when you cast a ballot via a voter ID, an ID. And it doesn't have to be a driver's license. It can be a birth certificate. It can be a Social Security card, I suppose. That's it. That's the so-called controversy. And this is where the media completely loses credibility or should lose credibility with normal people. Because outside of this political press bubble, voter ID and citizenship verification, these are not fringe ideas. We've not had a single poll that shows support for voter ID law or the SAVE Act under 70%. I think that's the lowest it's been, like 71%. You've got CNN, Pew, Reuters, Ipsos. You've got every poll from major organizations saying exactly the same thing. It's overwhelmingly supported by the American people across party lines, across races, across age groups. It does not matter. Poll after poll shows incredibly strong support. And again, not just amongst Republicans, not just amongst white people. Simply requiring photo ID to vote and ensuring only citizens vote in federal elections is overwhelmingly supported. And it's not a culture war wedge issue. In a lot of ways, the reason why it's so wildly popular is that these are baseline expectations. Like, everyone just assumes that it's not controversial and totally common sense to show an ID in order to vote. You show an ID to buy alcohol, to get on a plane, to rent a car, to get a prescription, to open a bank account. But I guess the moment you suggest that an ID for voting, all of a sudden, the media pretends democracy is hanging on by a thread. And again, there are few Democrat lawmakers who are willing to step up and say the right thing. John Fetterman continues to be that guy on the left who is saying the right thing. He was on with Maria Bartiromo.
And now, me as a Democrat, I do not believe that it's unreasonable or to show ID just to vote. And I remind everybody that less than a year ago in Wisconsin, they added that to the Constitution by a 63%, passing, to put that in the Constitution that you have to show ID to vote. And they also elected a very, very liberal justice into their Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. So it's not a radical idea for regular Americans to show your ID to vote. And it's absolutely, those things are not Jim Crow or anything.
And, the Democrats can't quite, as a party, figure out how to handle this issue, given the fact that it's so popular. There are times where you can take a 50-50 issue and pretend that it's 80-20 in your favor, but you can't do it in this case. And Chuck Schumer had a really awkward moment on MS Now when confronted with the polling.
The new Pew Research poll that 95% of Republicans, but also 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0, and I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true.
Oh, okay. That's why? Not because it's offensive, not because it's historically illiterate. It's because they know it's true. And so why is it that on this messaging, it's not cutting through to the rest of the country? They tried for a while, and I brought this up on CNN last night. I got to look. But no one called me out for it because they knew they would lose that argument, that we were told that black people couldn't figure out how to get an ID. And it went from they're not able to take time off of work to get an ID to they can't find a Xerox machine to photocopy an ID. It's just all. And did that ever work, Jackson? Was there ever any indication that line was working?
No, I mean, no. And even black Americans overwhelmingly support voter ID.
Exactly. So. The black people were like, what do you mean I got an ID right here. What are you talking about? And every 18-year-old college student says, what do you mean? I've got 3 fake IDs. We can't get a real one? I can get 3 fake ones saying I'm 21? It's so absolutely absurd. And at the heart of this, of course, you've got some people, again, in, I think, bad faith, making this argument of, and they did this last night on CNN on my panel, you haven't even shown that voter fraud is real. Voter fraud isn't even an issue. I'm like, well, how do you know? First of all, how do you know voter fraud isn't an issue? You're not willing to do any investigations. Like, can you prove there's anything happening? Well, you're not turning over the data. So, no, obviously I can't because you're not turning over anything. But we do know that voter fraud does happen. In fact, we know that it happens because there was just another case. And it wasn't merely just voter fraud, by the way. It was considerably more than that. It was an illegal immigrant in Massachusetts who was just convicted on federal identity theft, identity fraud, and voting in this last election. The Justice Department just put it 2 days ago. I saw the story. And yeah, it is rare. This doesn't happen all that often that we know of. But we've told you the story in Oregon where, because of the way that they register people to vote automatically, a whole bunch of people who were eligible to vote ended up getting registered. I don't know if they voted, and I'm presuming none of the people who were illegally registered did so, with any sort of intent. That was just how the law was done. And rather than say, hey, that seems to be a problem and could be indicative of something else going on. Oh, no, there's no evidence. What do you mean there's no evidence? And again, I brought up this case. It was a Colombian national, Lina Maria Orovio Hernandez, and she gets convicted of all of these charges, and she was captured on surveillance video with one of those I voted stickers on Election Day. And, they point out in the DOJ press release about this case, they're like, that just shows you how flagrant this is. And they point out this wasn't some sort of one-time mistake or accident. This has been going on with this individual, they say, certainly on the fraud cases, for years. Jonathan Turley, the George Washington law professor, spoke with Fox News.
This is one example of the cost of this type of fraud and the interrelationship between illegal immigration, fraud, including voting fraud, that we're facing around the country. I mean, this isn't one individual who came close to about $500,000, $500,000 in fraud, as well as the voting violation. And she did that by getting false identities, using those cards to get even more identification, and it sort of took off from there. But it's really breathtaking when you look at just these individual cases with almost $500,000 of fraud for one person. And you get a glimpse as to why we are looking at billions of dollars that have been burned through in this country. We're becoming a nation of chumps. That is, we have to deal with the interrelationship of election fraud, financial fraud that is connected to unlawful immigration.
But folks want to they just want to pretend that none of this actually happens. They do this because they benefit, or at least they think they benefit from the fraud politically. They think it keeps them in power. They're giving benefits to what they believe to be their constituency. And it's almost like a bribe. And the funny thing is, especially when you look at fraud, for example, in Minnesota, I don't even know if the people who were committing the fraud or beneficiaries of the fraud even knew it was fraud. Because they were probably sold this as, oh, no, don't worry, we're taking care of you, thinking that it was on the up and up. I don't know if every single person knew what was happening was fraudulent. There are obvious ones in which, you're operating a child daycare center without any children and you're collecting $1 million. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about some other cases. And this idea of the whole Jim Crow 2.0 nonsense was also called out by Jonathan Turley.
No, it's absurd, and it's insulting to many in the civil rights movement that faced laws that were justifiably denounced on these grounds. This is requiring an identification of vote. Senator Ossoff, just held a rally in which he required people to show their IDs so they could hear him talk about policies like his opposition to showing an ID to vote. Yeah. I mean, there's a certain incomprehensive quality to all of this, and I'm afraid that Schumer shows that many in the Democratic Party have jumped the shark on this. They have tried to ratchet up the rhetoric to try to reverse this, but the American people are very clear. They see no reason why you shouldn't have to show an identification to get on a plane and to vote.
But please, Democrats, die on this hill. Have at it. 1-800-465-8770 for your text messages. 1-800-465-8770. You're listening to The Jason Rantz Show. When we come back, broadcasting from our New York studios. Yeah, we upped the budget. Jackson doesn't get any bonus this year because I'm renting out a studio at the Fox News. And by rent out, I mean it's free. But I'm taking the money that we were otherwise going to give to Jackson. We come back, Washington not doing so well when it comes to our local economy and the jobs market. Some caveats, but we'll have the latest shocking details when we return right here on The Jason Rantz Show. By the way, the Sunset Auto family wants you to know that every dealer in the country pays exactly the same for every vehicle from the factory to the penny. So if you're offered a lower price, take a closer look because you're likely getting less for your trade-in or paying a higher interest rate. The difference isn't the car, it's what you get after you buy it. And that's why the Sunset Auto family keeps winning and why customers keep choosing them. SunsetAutoFamily.com.
You're losing your hair and you simply need a solution that works. You want the best. Modern technology, top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need world-class Dr. Perungo and his team at Advanced Hair. Advanced Hair has completely redefined hair restoration. From the experience itself to their unmatched results. Receding hairline, bald spot, thinning hair, maybe all three like I had. Get your hair back with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment that begins to regrow your own natural hair the very next day. Advanced Hair has changed tens of thousands of lives, including mine. And get this, Advanced Hair is once again the winner of the 425 Business of the Year. For your free consultation, call 425-449-8185. Right now, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team that redefined hair restoration. That's 425-449-8185. Or for the before and afters, visit advancedhair.com.
Hey, it's Jason Rantz. Gold and silver prices did really well last year. They're going to continue to do well, and you've put a lot of your own resources into that. Your precious metals have unfortunately also become a target. One break-in means a lot of years of hard work down the drain. And that's why people call Northwest Safe your local Liberty Safe dealer. Whether it's over the phone or in person, their expert sales staff will guide you to the right safe that's going to protect your precious metals, your firearms, your jewelry, your important documents, and everything else. They've been family owned and operated since 1988. And as an exclusive Liberty Safe dealer at Northwest Safe, you get better pricing, exclusive rebates, and the perfect safe that's in stock, ready to go. And of course, it's not just about the purchase, it's about the delivery. You get white glove delivery. They've got you covered upstairs, downstairs, bolted into your basement floor. They do it all. Protect your peace of mind. nwsafe.com, nwsafe.com, or visit Northwest Safe in Enumclaw. You can also give them a call. Here's the number, 888-404-SAFE. 1-888-404-SAFE.
Those of you interested in building your very own shop, horse arena, or farm equipment storage, Pac West Arenas will provide your engineering and a kit if needed. A kit includes step-by-step instructions, unlimited communication, and a one-time 4-hour site visit from an expert. If you also need engineering, Pac West Arenas will guarantee it in 10 business days. Consult an engineering and kit expert. Pac West Arenas, your one-stop shop for all your pole building needs. Go to pacwestarenas.com.
This is a test of your emergency alert system.
If society collapsed tomorrow, how long would your family last? If you run out of food, probably not very long. That's why over 3 million American families trust My Patriot Supply for preparedness. Right now, you can get their best-selling 3-month food kit for $100 off. It's 3 months worth of real, hearty meals that give you 2,000 calories a day and last up to 25 years. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com to get your 3-month kit for $100 off. The discount won't last long, so go to MyPatriotSupply.com today. That's MyPatriotSupply.com.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner.
Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Welcome back to the Jason Rantz Show on Seattle Red 770 AM, online at seattlered.com. Washington ranked number 3rd in the country for the most layoffs last month. And this is according to an outplacement firm called Challenger, Gray & Christmas. The Tacoma News Tribune has the write-up. They just released this report, and it says that looking at the layoff numbers in January, we hit the highest total since 2009. And we obviously knew locally that there's a ton of layoffs happening, but it has been due to a very specific sector. This has to do with tech jobs. But we also saw the slowest total hiring plans for that month to date since they started tracking the plans in 2009. They say we were just shy of 20,000 layoffs. Specifically, it was 19,526 layoffs in Washington to date so far. And keep in mind, thousands of these people, not that it makes the news any better, but thousands are coming from Amazon and Microsoft and other tech jobs. We expect that we're going to have some Boeing potential layoffs to announce with some of the changes there, moving some of the engineering jobs to South Carolina. But it says that dwarfs the number of layoffs in the state over the same time frame last year, which logged fewer than 2,670 layoffs. Again, this is very specific to the tech sector. Georgia ranked first with over 31,000 layoffs. Michigan came in second with over 19,700 layoffs, according to the report. You know, this is part of a bigger concern with the economy in that there are different indicators, and we talked with Lauren Simonetti this hour about it. The Dow is doing outstanding. We're hitting records, and we expect that that's going to continue to go. A lot of the growth is coming from AI, but consumer spending is down-ish, or at least it's flat at best. Now, it's up year over year, but it's down significantly if you go back a few months. And as Lauren pointed out from Fox Business, you've got consumer spending not seeing a huge surge in December, which is when you generally would see that when the economy is doing well. Prices are still a little bit too high for most people. Now, mixed good news in all of that is that some of that is mitigated because your paycheck is higher. At the same time, you've got the president now apparently pushing for an additional $1,000 in tax refunds on top of what's going to come to you or most people courtesy of the one big beautiful bill. How that's going to change the general outlook of the economy, I imagine it's going to be positive. I just don't know how positive. Right now, there are a lot of people, including conservatives, who are obviously concerned. And when it comes to the economy, we said this over and over and over again. It's all about your personal feelings and your personal situations. If you see the Dow Jones killing it, and yet you're saying to yourself, man, I'm still struggling paying my bills, paying my mortgage, paying my rent, paying whatever. It doesn't matter that the Dow Jones is doing well. And if you just got laid off at Amazon, coming off of a $220,000 a year job, and now you have to start fresh at a different business, a different company, still in the tech sector, meaning you're still competing against AI, which just cost you your job, you're not feeling great. And, you know, until the personal economic outlook changes for enough people, the numbers are going to stay where they are. And that is a big vulnerability for the president, a big vulnerability, frankly, for Republicans going into the midterms. And that's why I think they're putting so much at stake with the One Big Beautiful Bill and the tax write-offs. Obviously, if you're someone who is working a job that is reliant on tips, you're going to know who gave you the no tax on tips, and that helps Donald Trump. But if the economic outlook overall doesn't change for most Americans and the prices don't come down, I don't know if a tax refund in April and the excitement level and the impact that that has is going to last until November. It just seems incredibly unlikely that it will. And that is the biggest issue facing this administration and the Republican Party. Now, at the same time, it seems to me that you've got a lot of squandering going on from the Democrats. Because what was one issue that they were talking about nonstop? The one issue that the president called fake, called contrived, affordability. When was the last time you heard the Democrats making an affordability argument?
It's been a while.
Right? It's been a very long time since they've said anything. I couldn't tell you the last time they did. And what are they talking about instead? We talked about in the last segment. They're talking about, oh, well, guess what? We've got some problems going on with the threat of democracy because the president wants to force people to show that they're actually American citizens who are eligible to vote. Oh, no. And, of course, they're also talking about immigration. Now, immigration, again, the polling is consistent that folks believe that ICE has gone too far. They've gotten too aggressive. At the same time, though, they don't want to see open borders. And there are people who grandstand, like Eric Swalwell, who was questioning Todd Blanche today, and acting ICE director, or Todd Lyons, excuse me, and it didn't go so well because he's holding up a picture of Liam Ramos, who the left is pretending was some sort of victim of overzealous ICE, and Lyons swatted that down.
Your staying on to lead ICE is a decision, and I've read your background. You have a decorated career. You've served in the military. You are what I would call otherwise employable. I think most people would agree this is not the only job that you can get. But since you've been on this job, women have been dragged by their hair through our streets. A 6-year-old child battling stage 4 cancer has been deported, and it turns out he was a U.S. citizen. People are running through the fields where they work. People who've gone to the streets as allies have been shot and publicly executed.
Not true.
It's a decision to stay on at this point. And considering your honorable service in the past and the dishonorable acts that those who have worked for you have conducted, and the disgraceful, you now have a decision. Will you stand with the kids who you're supposed to protect, or will you side with the killers bringing terror to our streets? Mr. Lyons, will you resign from ICE?
No, sir, I won't.
Why not?
Because, sir, that child that you're showing right there, the men and women of ICE took care of him when his father abandoned him and ran from law enforcement.
Time has expired.
You never should have gone into custody.
Time has expired.
Yeah, you should never have gone into custody. If you have a child, you should be exempt from any immigration law. That's their position. 1-800-465-8770. You know what he didn't do there? Talk about affordability, which actually helps them. 1-800-465-8770. You're listening to The Jason Rantz Show.
With great reviews and friendly, smiling faces, General Transmission can repair your transmission for far less than a replacement. Need a second opinion? Trust General Transmission. Family owned and operated since 1988, GeneralTransmission.com.
The stock market was on fire in 2025 due to AI and tech stocks. Now is the time to set a strategy for 2026. It's a good opportunity to lock in those gains and invest into a stable platform. With $8 trillion in cash sitting on the sidelines, investors are either scared or unsure where to go. Hi, I'm Scott Rirucka, CEO of Legacy Group Capital in Bellevue. Legacy Group Capital develops local real estate, lends money, and shares the profits with our investors. Diversify with Legacy Group Capital. Invest into our Northwest Fund, which is currently delivering 9% on a fixed rate term. It's our flagship fund for 19 years with zero investor losses. And yes, we do accept IRAs. Find out why 1,300 local investors have invested over $350 million.
Legacy Group Capital at legacyg.com. This is not investment advice. Investments available to accredited investors only. Details at legacyg.com.
Belize it or not, there's sunshine waiting for you in Belize. Win a free 7-day stay, including round-trip airfare from Seattle to Belize, and stay at the Flower World-owned Belizean Resort. Check out MayaHeights.com for rules and to enter for a chance to win. Maya Heights Resort, a beautiful restaurant, resort, 1,000-acre farm, and views to enjoy on the terrace in paradise. Belize will provide the warmth and adventure while Flower World provides the trip. MayaHeights.com, your gateway to Belize. From Flower World.
I'm worried.
About what?
Water.
Oh?
Hot water, if you really want to know.
Water heater worries?
Worried it's wearing down.
Running out?
The hot doesn't last like it used to.
So you're...
Worried.
I got a guaranteed fix.
Let me guess. A new water heater.
Right, but...
That's what worries me.
Well, worry no more.
Why?
What you need is an Apollo Plumbing water heater.
Because?
We include Wrenchy's worry-free warranty.
Wrenchy's what?
Worry-free warranty. warranty.
Which means
when it wears out, we replace it.
No extra charge.
As an A-List Club member, you're covered for life.
For life.
For as long as you're an A-List member, you get annual life-extending water heater flushes included.
So it lasts longer.
Right.
And when it needs replacement,
you're covered.
With no worries.
Because it's Wrenchie's
worry-free warranty.
What else would you expect from the Ready Right Now plumbers?
Apollo Plumbing.
Home of Wrenchie's worry-free warranty.
What about tankless ones?
Worry-free too.
Gotta love that Wrenchie.
ApolloPlumbing.com.
If you need security for your event or business, contact Security Services Northwest. From armed and unarmed officers to advanced remote monitoring, they've been doing it all since 1977. Go to ssnwhq.com for Security Services Northwest.
Seattle Red on 770 KTTH Seattle, 97.3 KIRO FM, HD3 Tacoma Seattle, 94.5 K233 DT Eastlake, 33 BU Seattle.
Break in the case. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. A new clue in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie in the form of a video doorbell footage.
FBI Director Kash Patel announcing that just this morning, with the help of what he called partners, they were able to access, quote, residual data located in back-end systems to find video of someone at Nancy Guthrie's front door in the early hours of Sunday, February 1st, when the 84-year-old disappeared. The person was wearing gloves and a ski mask and carrying what appears to be a gun in a holster and a backpack. The video and freeze-frame pictures obviously provide the FBI with a treasure trove of evidence, but they don't offer clues to Nancy Guthrie's whereabouts right now.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt in Tucson. Local officers and the FBI knocking on doors in the neighborhood where Nancy Guthrie's daughter Annie lives, and police have returned to Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood. Negotiations continue in Congress to meet a Friday deadline to fund the Department of Homeland Security, with Senate Majority Leader John Thune saying there have been good faith efforts by Democrats and the White House that would also reform immigration enforcement. President Trump sticking by his Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick amid questions about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Lutnick is facing questions from Congress about his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein after files released by the Justice Department revealed the two met after Epstein's 2008 conviction.
Probably about 10 emails connecting me with him over a 14-year period.
Lutnick told a Senate panel he traveled to Epstein's private island in 2012 with his family for lunch during a sailing vacation.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. Drug company Moderna says the FDA is refusing to consider its application for a new flu vaccine made with mRNA technology. America's listening to Fox News.
Honey, that flu keeping you up? Did you take NyQuil Intense Flu?
Nah, I got this. Okay, I don't got this.
Yeah, you need NyQuil Intense Flu.
Undo your flu with NyQuil Intense Flu. NyQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms so you can sleep.
You do got this.
NyQuil Intense Flu. The nighttime sniffling, aching fever. Best sleep with the flu medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
You're still grooving, still connecting, still loving, still turning up, still thriving. You still got it, but your immune system, it weakens as you age. That's where vaccines come in. They help train and strengthen your immune response to fight off respiratory illnesses like flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, or COVID-19. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Book in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
The yellow light! Oh God, I'm walking here! I'm walking!
Good afternoon and welcome to the Jason Rantz Show. We are here on Seattle Red 770 AM, streaming online at seattlered.com. We're broadcasting from the New York studios for today and for tomorrow. We got a lot to get to. Some exciting news out of the Cheney Public Schools District. Not really a headline you would normally hear. Plus, King 5 is sounding the alarms unnecessarily over weight loss drug overdoses. We'll get into that and so much more. But first, we now have a better idea as to how some people decided to behave post-Super Bowl win. That's what's trending. Brought to you by the Sunset Auto Family.
What's trending in Seattle?
Well, we knew that after the Super Bowl win, there was some, low-key violence and vandalism in Pioneer Square. I'm presuming, as is often the case, it's a bunch of drunk people who act the way drunk people act, and driven by a lot of crowds and the excitement they get out of hand. And I saw some video. Jonathan Cho, I think, was out there because I saw the video that he had posted showing some fights and whatnot. And now King 5 says they've made several arrests, Seattle police, after the Sunday win. Some of that were assaults, weapons violations, DUIs. It wasn't all just in Pioneer Square, but they say the arrests were often connected to Seahawks celebrations or by officers who were working emphasis patrol. They say police officers arrested a male driver for DUI after responding to a rear-end crash. A male driver was arrested for a different male driver for DUI after officers responded to a vehicle that crashed into a cement divider. A man making threats to kill police officers. I'm guessing that one was not tied to the Super Bowl because that's at 8:30 p.m. When did the game end?
Like 7:30.
So an hour later, threatening. I guess if he kept drinking, maybe. And then again, there's a whole bunch of different crimes that are listed here. I will say, even if we were to assume that every single one of these cases, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all 12 of them were tied to the Seahawks, that shows some restraint from the fan base, from the drunken fan base, because there were a bunch of people who were drunk, right?
I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if this was New England that won, there'd be at least 4 times that, and they would all be racist.
Oh, yeah.
On top of it, right? It would just be racist attack after racist drunken attack. One local business owner says there wasn't enough police to maintain control.
I was not feeling unsafe. I was just feeling there was not enough police to secure the neighborhood.
Well, that's the reality regardless of the day.
He's like, sir, do you know what city you're in?
It's like, excuse me, sir, but this is Seattle. I don't know what you think is going on here, but we are still dramatically understaffed. Sir, you make a very valid point. However, you are now being ignored. Is that what they did on the King 5 story?
No, unfortunately.
Just push them aside and say, hey, dum-dum, of course we don't have enough cops. Now, at the same time, we do know that there is the parade happening tomorrow. I don't remember where I saw this, but someone made a really good point. Why not have the parade on the 12th, which is Thursday?
That is a good idea, actually, yeah.
Is that a really good idea? And are you supposed to have it on I feel like they're always on Wednesdays.
For the Super Bowl.
Kind of celebrate, not just Super Bowl, like there was an MLS Cup. When they won, it was done on, I remember it was done on a Wednesday because I was upset that I have to go back to the office the next day.
I don't think they have to be on Wednesday. Super Bowl ones probably are always like on the same regiment because the Super Bowl is always on a Sunday, but yeah, I don't know.
Sure, but was there any reason that if we're going to rush it, then you do it on Tuesday. But you're already waiting to Wednesday. What's an extra day to make it themed along the 12s?
And more prep for the city, maybe? I don't know.
But that's a good thing to have more prep.
Well, I'm saying that's why you do it Wednesday rather than Tuesday.
No, but then do it Thursday rather than Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe
that's an extra day.
They don't want the luster to wear off, you know.
The luster's not good.
They want it to be fresh.
It'll be fresh. And then you could do it at noon. Like, make it obviously it's 2/12, so just do it at noon on the 12th instead of on the Wednesday. Gates open at Lumen Field at 8:30. The ceremony's at 10. The route will start through Seattle, downtown Seattle, and get to the stadium. The tickets apparently went on sale. Were they actually on sale? You had to pay to go to it? Or just register?
Maybe for like certain spots, perhaps.
Well, they're sold out, so you're not going.
Well, I'm working, so you know.
And that I would have given you the time off had you gotten tickets. Why didn't you?
I just assumed I wouldn't be able to go.
Yeah, you're right. You would not have. If you came into my office and said you're not going to come to the office on Wednesday, tomorrow, because of this, knowing I'm in New York especially, Do you know what the consequences would be? The equivalent of you wearing shorts or a T-shirt and hair gel.
Mm-hmm.
Same exact consequences. You'd be done. Done.
I mean, we've won a Super Bowl before, too, so it's fine. But
yeah, and also, do you need a parade?
They're kind of fun. I mean...
No, they're not. There's never in the history of parades ever been one
If it was the
fun.
Mariners, I might try and find my way to finagle out of work, but...
Well, what are my general rules about what time you get in? As long as everything gets done, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Except, obviously, when I'm in New York, as I am now. Should I tell some people behind the scenes of how last night went on CNN? I think I have time. So, for people at home, I only find out who's going to be on the panel usually around 6 o'clock Pacific. And that, give or take, 10, 15 minutes. And the second they send the panel, I screenshot it and I send it over to Jackson, usually with a LOL or some sort of vulgarity. And I think I did both with yesterday's announcement of Charles Blow on the panel, who's very, very, very far to the left. And then the second hour panel was Jamal Simmons, I think his name is, who I really like. Not on air. We argue all the time. But off air, he's very nice, and we talk politics after the show and sometimes before the show. Caroline Downey was the other conservative on the panel. She's awesome. I've not met her, but we were definitely giving each other looks throughout the entire panel when we would hear things that are like, really? Come on, that's a really bad argument. And then there were people on the panel who I recognize, but I apologize, I don't know their names. One was brand new, and I started to feel bad because she wasn't getting in any points because she didn't get the flow. And it's hard to figure out the flow of any debate show, certainly one when there's 5 people on the panel plus the host. But she was not. And then she dropped the S-bomb, which then made me not like her. Because I was like, really? Are we doing this? You think that's going to get you attention? It's not. It's not going to get you attention. Make good points. That'll get you attention. She only did it once. But I can't remember what the topic was. I was making some point. I think it was tied to the Olympic segment where we were talking about the Olympians who are bad-mouthing the country. She didn't say it on air, and then we get to a commercial break, and then she turns to me and goes, I was just about to say, that sounds like a wet man is talking. And immediately I was like, why did you not say that on air? Because I would have jumped that so quickly. And that would have been, ironically, my viral moment, not yours.
Yeah, that's too bad.
It's just like, it's one of those
squandered.
Yeah, and I kept going. What's so bruising about that is that you then spend the next several hours thinking of how it would have gone had she done that.
Right.
Just in my head, I was like, you noticed I was white? I was trying to keep that a secret. Oh, no. I kept trying to make jokes in my head about it, and I landed on some good ones, but I'm not going to give them out because the chances are high that line would come up again when I'm on the panel. I'm waiting for 2 things, calling me out for being white or thinking I'm heterosexual and then making a comment about how I shouldn't be commenting on LGBT issues. I'm just waiting for those 2 moments because that's my time to shine. 1-800-465-8770. Let's find out what's trending.
What's trending? Your health.
The Washington Poison Center has seen, according to King 5, significant increases in calls involving the various GLP-1 weight loss drugs. We're talking about Ozempic, Wegovy, that other one I always forget the name of. What's the other one called? Zepbound, yeah. And basically saying the number of cases have almost, the number has almost doubled compared with recent years. And the takeaway from this, not just article, but like a 6-minute feature, is pretty dramatic. Until you actually read the details and hear them, it's like, no, it's not nearly what it is that they want you to believe. Lee Thomas is from Issaquah. He went viral on TikTok because he lost some weight, saying he was on the drugs. They were doing a lot of, benefit to his body, to his life. But then he said, there's a darker side that doesn't get enough attention.
Sprinkled throughout those stories were stories of people who had a very bad reaction. If you get this wrong and you pull a little too much, now you're overdosing yourself.
Now, when he uses overdose, it's a little bit different than when we talk about like traditional drug overdoses. And it obviously can be serious when you take too much of any of these drugs, just like this is the case for literally any substance. But we're talking about maybe doing a little bit more in your dosage than you otherwise would. And we're not talking about the kind of overdose that would lead to death. And I don't know what that number is when it comes to Ozempic or Wegovy or Zepbound, but I don't think we've seen any stories in which we saw an overdose death as a result of taking too much.
Having people do this at home is going to lead to errors. I'm an attorney, try to think of myself as pretty smart, and I had... I watched the whole King 5 story, to do a lot of research and figure out how am I supposed to do this correctly without overdosing or underdosing myself. People want to get on them, which I get, but I just want people to do it safely, right? I don't want people feeling like they want to get these meds and then rush into it.
So we'll get to some of the data, but let's just briefly talk about what he's saying there. He's saying that because you dose at home and you're injecting yourself at home, because in this case, he's talking about like the compounds of the drugs. So you're not getting the single-use pens, like EpiPens, where it's administering an exact dosage. You're getting the little vial. You get your own syringes, or they give you syringes, and you're measuring it, and you're self-injecting. And his basic argument there is that it's very difficult to figure out how to do it correctly, and it's really easy to screw up. So, number one, it is not, in fact, really difficult to figure out any of this. You have to pay attention. And maybe that's the real issue, that people aren't paying close attention. And he goes on to say, if you use this syringe, it gives you a certain number of units that doesn't translate to this syringe. You're just supposed to use the syringe that they give you from the company that you purchase these drugs from. That's it. And if you go a little bit over, one, you're not going to overdose, quote unquote, to death. And two, then you weren't paying attention. How hard is this? I've not had to self-administer, in fairness, but I'm aware of it because I've been doing a lot of research on peptides, because I'm kind of curious to take peptides, and I talk with John Curley about them all the time. So I've done some research. This isn't that difficult. And you don't have to be a genius to figure it out. You can also be an overweight Issaquah lawyer and figure this out. By the way, did he gain all the weight back?
I hadn't thought of that until you mentioned it, but yeah, or was he just...
He's over. I mean, it's possible that he was like super morbidly obese.
Maybe that's the case.
But he's no offense, man, but
he's a portly fellow.
Portly? That's being too kind. So what does the actual data say? The Washington Poison Center Hotline's Chief Clinical Officer, Jimmy Leonard, gave some details to King 5. And again, this is supposed to be alarming. He says in 2025, they got 421 GLP-1 related calls. And this doesn't mean that that these were 421 calls about overdoses. This was a call that someone felt they had to make because of X, Y, and Z. Sometimes they were thinking maybe they did overdose or they took too much, or their symptoms for side effects were very, very severe, like hardcore nausea and vomiting. It went from 421, or it went to 421 from 211 the previous year. They say, and unlike typical medication trends that spike and then decline, these numbers continue climbing. Can I just translate that? More people are taking GLP-1s.
It's kind of what I thought too.
Right? There's no, what is the scandal here? They're like, well, many times we start to see the numbers come down. Yeah, that usually translates to a time where less or fewer people are taking the drug, or at a bare minimum, it's a stagnant number. There are more and more people who are getting on GLP-1s. We're at a point where a quarter of the population are taking some form of GLP-1 drugs. And some of it, by the way, is due to diabetes, not necessarily because it's being used as a weight loss drug. But that's the only reason why. So going from double when you've got a quarter of the population. So a quarter of the population. What is the population in Washington right now? It's something like almost 8 million.
Yeah, I think it's like 7 point something.
Right. Like, so let's just go with 8 million for the sake of argument. So 8 million, a quarter of that, of the 8 million, are on a GLP-1 drug. And yet they've only received 421 calls. Isn't that a success? How would you look at that and say, well, what's a quarter of 8 million?
2 million.
Right? Okay, so of 2 million, you got 421 calls?
Yeah, it's pretty minute.
Doesn't that suggest that people do know, in fact, what it is they're doing? And again, the implication from this article is that the 421, these are people who are overdosing. No, they're just experiencing side effects. Here's the guy from the Washington State Poison Center.
We're seeing a lot of the same thing, increase in the number of calls, which is often related to medication errors, unintentional overdose of it. Essentially what happens is they get really short-term overdose and they will have really bad nausea and vomiting and inability to tolerate oral medication or oral anything, right? They can't take water, can't take juice, can't take food.
Well, how else do you lose the weight? Isn't that I can't remember who I heard joking about this, but they said, isn't that the whole point of taking GLP-1? So you're so nauseous you end up losing all the weight?
Pretty much, yeah.
I know it makes you feel full longer, or it slows your gastric emptying, which just sounds gross, I guess. But okay, fine. So the food just stays in your gut. That's the issue that would prevent me from taking GLP-1s. Because again, I'm totally open to it. But I'm already hypersensitive, and I feel like this would make me really sick because the foods that I eat, it's clean and everything, but it's high fat and high protein. I don't necessarily want that slowed from my gastrointestinal system or whatever. I don't want that. Sounds awful.
You get nauseous just from getting tired. So
I really do. Am I the only one? That has to be common. There are times if I am legitimately fatigued. And I don't mean tired, but like you're done. You're up way too late. You didn't get any sleep whatsoever. We've all had those moments. When that happens to me, I get like violently ill, nauseous. I will puke everywhere. If I'm up after 11 p.m. and I'm getting up at my normal time of like 4:30, 5 a.m., somewhere between then, at 11 p.m., if I'm still up, I am sick to my I will projectile vomit everywhere. Is that not normal?
I've never experienced that, but...
Have you ever felt fatigue the way I have?
Probably not, but...
Because you're lazy. Say it.
You work a lot harder than I do, so...
Exactly. That was the right answer. Here's a small business owner outside of Chicago named Sean speaking with King 5 saying the GLP-1 almost killed him.
I've been throwing up in our bucket here. And
okay, is that a vomit bucket? Or was that a bucket you use for vomit?
It kind of just looked like a little trash can.
Well, I would argue if it's a vomit bucket, you can't be mad that you're using it for its intended purposes.
And I kid you not, I was so sick that I could not, I thought I was dying.
How many times did you end up going to the hospital?
4 times in total. Admitted twice, released through the ER twice.
At its worst, how serious was this?
At one point, they told me if I wouldn't have came in, if I wouldn't have came in when I did, I would have probably died. I'd never really seen, people really talking about the negative side effects.
Okay. This is a little bit more than quote unquote negative side effects. This was obviously something more, unless it was sheer incompetence when it came to the dosing. I mean, 4 times? How do you get hospitalized 4 times? Twice admitted and released to the emergency room twice.
Would you just stop taking it too after like the first time?
Right? If I'm taking it 1 time and I get hospitalized, I'm done. I mean, so the day that I had to go to the emergency room, what was it, 3-4 weeks ago? I had taken a supplement that I had previously taken and felt really awful around. And I didn't think anything of it the first time. I was like, oh, it's just a new supplement. Then a month later, I took it again because you're only supposed to take it once a month. It's a senolytic, so it cleans out like dead cells, zombie cells they're called. I end up going to the emergency room that night, and I don't know if it was tied to that supplement. The doctor certainly didn't tie it to I'm done. I'm never going to take it again. And it's possible in this case, because reading the article, they say he swears that the dosage he took was proper and that investigators in Illinois are now looking to see whether or not the medication was tainted or if he just happened to have a very unusual, severe reaction, which, you know, they say an inquiry that highlights the murky oversight of some GLP-1 products. There's some truth to that in that some places you're getting medication from, they don't do all their due diligence, and it's not necessarily a clean supply. But that's not due to the drug itself from Pfizer or Eli Lilly or whatever. That's the compounding that takes place. That's different. And I don't know if you can use this to say that GLP-1s are unhealthy. And again, I'm going to note that the people who are now warning you about GLP-1s are the ones it didn't work on. And there's a bias in that. If you put your hopes into one particular drug and it doesn't work, you're probably going to come out against that particular drug. But it doesn't mean it's not going to work for other people. And it does come with some significant side effects. And that has always been known. I don't know anyone who's ever hidden that. In fact, wasn't it the one thing we heard about the most when it comes to Ozempic and the other two? That you can feel really, really nauseous? How have I heard of it? And it's gotten me to the point where I wouldn't test it unless the pill form somehow has better side effects or lower side effects. But these people haven't. The reality is people on GLP-1s, they're doing it so that they can get into better health. And right now, the health of Americans, awful. The health of kids, awful. RFK Jr. this week, yesterday, Monday, he had another one of his events talking about or sounding the alarms over the health of children. It was a Heritage Foundation event. And, you know, this came on the heels of, did you see on Sunday the Mike Tyson ad?
I didn't, but I know what you're going to be referring to next.
So he does an ad where he's calling out processed food. And it was very kind of direct about fatty McFat kids because they're eating really poorly. And that's something that RFK Jr. has been really making an effort to combat. And again, if RFK Jr. were still seen as a Democrat, if he was Jill Biden, who made these comments, Dr. Jill, they would all celebrate him as saying, look, he's taking on, or Michelle Obama tried to take on childhood obesity. But them taking on childhood obesity encouraged people to continue to eat processed food. And RFK Jr. is saying no more processed food. This is what's making us all fat and unhealthy.
80% of physicians say they don't feel confident to give nutritional advice because they're learning pharmacology in medical school. And there's a pill for every ill. And we're not focusing on what the causes are and how.
And not only are they not focused on the cause part, because when you go to a doctor, they're treating an illness you already have rather than being proactive so that you don't get sick. Many doctors, not all doctors. But I was listening to Dr. Mark Hyman, who is he's an actual doctor. He's a functional health medicine specialist, but he's got a podcast. He's really, really popular in the longevity space. And he pointed out medical school. Do you know how many hours they spend on nutrition? 20. That's it. 20 hours on nutrition. And you could argue that the best medicine anyone can offer is food, healthy food, because it can be preventative in nature. Now, obviously, if you've got an active asthma attack, they're not going to say, eat a banana. That's not going to help. But to get to a point where asthma doesn't flare up, you can argue that if you're focused on diet, and I say this as someone who is an asthmatic, whose asthma is under very good control, I think mostly due to weight loss and my diet.
I mean, if we're going to beat this, that's what we have to do. And the primary culprit is ultra-processed foods, refined carbohydrates. 70% of the food that our kids eat are ultra-processed foods, and it's killing them, and it's a spiritual warfare.
And by the way, when you hear ultra-processed, it's not a new term per se, but you're going to hear it a lot more because you know what's processed food? My sardines in a can that I eat in my office, and people get mad at me for eating. But it's not processed in the traditional sense. They just mean they put it in a can and they put olive oil on it. But that's technically processed. So when we're saying ultra-processed, we're talking about the stripping out of certain nutrients, adding other preservatives and stuff like that inside. It's not healthy.
It is actually it's a war
Spit it out.
Scale against cellular activity. It's an assault on our children. And if it's much worse than cigarettes. Everybody agrees cigarettes are bad. This is much worse.
He's right. Jackson, when he's right, he's right.
He is. And did you see the picture he posted with the Mike Tyson tattoo on his face?
That's funny. I mean, I'm not ready to embrace Mike Tyson because he's a bad guy, but his heart on this part in this world is in the right place. 1-800, and it's a heart that is not burdened by processed food. 1-800-465-8770 for your text messages. You are listening to The Jason Rantz Show. When we come back, we're going to dive into the big local.
If you owe back taxes, listen carefully to rule number 1. Never go up against the IRS alone. They're cracking down, freezing bank accounts, garnishing paychecks, canceling passports. Even your home or business could be at risk. But here's what they don't tell you. The IRS has powerful tax relief programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. That's why smart people call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. Nobody knows these programs like the experts at Optima. Their team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $2 billion in tax debt for people just like you. The IRS is not stopping, so don't wait and don't take them on alone. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, call Optima today for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hey, it's Jason Rantz here. The stock market soared last year, and a lot of that was driven by AI and the tech sector. And for many of you, if not most of you, you were left behind. Seems many of you were left behind because there was nearly $8 trillion in cash sitting on the sidelines with investors nervous or unsure where to put it. That's where my show sponsor comes in, Legacy Group Capital, LegacyG.com. Now is the moment to get intentional about a strategy this year. It's also a smart opportunity to protect gains and move part of your portfolio into something stable. Legacy Group Capital, they're based in Bellevue. They focus on local real estate development, private lending, and the sharing of profits with investors. That could be you. It's a way to diversify without chasing the next overheated trend. You can invest in Legacy Group Capital's Northwest Fund. They're currently offering a fixed 9% rate of return, and yes, IRAs are accepted. More than 1,300 local investors have already invested over $350 million with Legacy Group Capital. If you want to learn more, and you should, go to LegacyG.com or call 425-635-4700. 425-635-4700 or LegacyG.com.
Thanks for calling CM Heating. How can I help?
Yeah, hi. Aren't you the company that gives away free furnaces?
Yep, that's us. Buy a qualifying high-efficiency cooling system and the furnace is absolutely free.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and our home comfort advisors are tax credit and rebate specialists, so we'll help you save the most and even handle the rebate process start to finish.
Amazing, but what if I just need a furnace?
All good. Furnaces start at just $69.99 a month. And don't forget to ask about our clean air upgrades, because with all the smoke from wildfires, these systems filter out pollen, dust, and harmful particles, keeping the air in your home clean and healthy all year long.
Sweet.
Go to CM Heating for better comfort, lower bills, a free furnace you'll love for years, and cleaner air for your home. Get your free estimate for furnace replacement at cmheating.com. And remember, for furnaces, fireplaces, hot water, total home comfort, and electrical service,
There's no beating CM Heating.
For over 50 years, Bucky's Complete Auto Repair has been the one locals trust for honest pricing, expert service, and guaranteed repairs. This dedication has earned them a Carfax Preferred designation. At Bucky's, every customer gets detailed Carfax updates, timely service reminders, and a full service history all at your fingertips. With 16 family-owned locations, no appointment needed, and easy financing, Buc-ee's makes auto care simple. Visit Buc-ee's.com today and drive with confidence. Buc-ee's.com.
Hey, how's your money situation? Are you ready for retirement? Well, if you want to know what the pros are doing to make wealth multiply and retire like royalty, then you need to listen to this show, The Money Professor, with Chris Longworth. Get your money right and tune in every weekend, Saturdays at 10 a.m. and Sundays at 12 noon on Seattle Red.
This hour is brought to you by the Northwest Safe Company.
Olympia, Sammamish, Lakewood, Bellevue.
This is the Big Local on the Jason Rantz Show.
Bellingham, Kirkland, Seatown.
Stories about you, not about Seattle.
Hey, look at the time, 4:30 on a weekday afternoon, although it's 7:30 for me. That means it's time for the Big Local. Brought to you by The Scott Jennings Show, heard weeknights 8 to 10 right here on Seattle Red. This is the part of the show where we completely ignore the stories coming out of Seattle and instead focus all of our attention on the communities you live in and care about most. We start in Cheney, Washington, where the public school district is making a pretty exciting change to its lunch menus at schools, and one that you wouldn't think would be controversial. And I'm having a hard time reading the Spokesman Review article because I hate them so much. I just assume that they're trying to make something controversial when there's no controversy, but I'm not entirely sure. I think they're making this into a controversy, but we'll pretend. Bringing back whole milk, which doesn't seem like that big of a change, and yet under Democrats and Republican leadership in the White House, whole milk, full fat foods and beverages have been eschewed for, the fat-free stuff because people pretend that consuming fat makes you fat. It does not, in fact, make you fat. Fat does not translate to fat on the body. And so under the new nutritional guidelines from RFK Jr., school lunches will be considerably healthier as they used to be. They're trying to cut as much as of the processed, ultra-processed food out as they can, while also celebrating whole unprocessed foods, and that includes milk. Although Jackson was wondering if this was raw milk, which would be much healthier, according to some. It is not.
I'm not a fan.
I'm not either. I don't like milk, so I get out of it. I've been doing some. I listen to like some podcasts that are talking about whole fat, raw, unpasteurized milk is like uber healthy. Like,
I'll stick with the pasteurized. Thank
yeah,
you.
if I'm gonna drink milk, it's gonna be pasteurized, but it would be full fat. Although weirdly, I don't like full fat milk. I like skim milk, but it's not healthy for you, or it's not as healthy. But for years, obviously, Cheney, like so many others, they were basically following the federal nutritional guidelines, and that meant you had to get the skim milk or the low-fat milk, and that was even for really young kids, and it was always justified as some sort of public health move that when you reduce saturated fat, you're fighting childhood obesity. Follow the science, they said. And what's been going on with the childhood obesity rates since we followed the quote-unquote science? Remind us?
It's gotten way worse.
Yeah, fat McFat face got fatter and fatter and fatter. That's what ended up happening. And that's setting these kids up for just miserable childhoods and teenage years and, frankly, adult years. It's insane to me that people got away with this for so long. And over time, the nutritional research didn't just complicate the narrative that we were told, it completely shattered it. Completely. You've got a ton of studies showing that whole milk and fat in general, they're not the villains that nutritionists, and this is not necessarily political, but nutritionists turn them into. They're just not the villains. In fact, especially when you're looking at kids who drink whole milk, they're healthier because they feel fuller longer, which means they're consuming fewer calories overall. And when you're a kid, unless you've got parents who are very particular about what you're eating and drinking, you tend to eat a lot of the ultra-processed food. And so any ways to cut down on that is better. The school is now, they say in the spokesman review, offering whole milk alongside lower fat options, giving families and students more choices instead of forcing a one-size-fits-all policy. But I don't like that at all. I think you should get full fat, period, end of story. Stop pretending that there's anything wrong with that, because it's not. Especially given the fact you're not even forcing kids. It's not like you're forcing kids to drink whole milk. You can drink water if you want. But, kids are screwed. Sorry. Even now. Do you know how long it's going to take RFK Jr. and Brooke Rollins, the Ag Secretary, to fix this? Do you know how long? They're not going to be able to fix this in 4 years.
No way. It's too systemic.
There's no way. And not only is it systemic, but there's such huge pushback to him. And it was on the Club Random podcast, the Bill Maher podcast. Chris Pratt happened to be a guest. And they were talking about how there's like this reflexive anger towards anything coming from the Trump administration. And it seems like amongst many people, most people certainly in the lawmaker space, but many people on the left will just reflexively say, this is wrong because it came from Donald Trump. He could do exactly the same thing that Joe Biden did or Obama, and they would still just immediately say, this is wrong, this is awful, can't believe he did that. And he's like, why would you do that? Like, doesn't this seem like something we can get behind? Not putting Clorox bleach in your cereal in the morning? Isn't that good? And obviously he was speaking a little bit hyperbolic, although not crazy hyperbolically. Why can't we just see this as good news? And part of it, in fairness, on the nutrition side of things, people haven't done any of their own research, and they've been told that full fat whatever is inherently bad for you. And so they just believe it. And RFK Jr. has not done himself any favors with some of the commentary he's made on vaccines. And I don't mean COVID vaccines, but just vaccines in general. And in some cases, I even agree with him, but he's been at times leaning into the kooky stuff. And so I just don't think people are willing to trust him as much. And I understand the lack of trust, but do your own research then, because he's 100% right on this stuff. Meanwhile, speaking of not good for kids, a 74-year-old man out of Union Gap was found guilty of attempted child rape. He was caught in an Operation Net Nanny trial. I'm bringing this up for a reason, but reminder for people who don't know, the Net Nanny stings, essentially created by the Washington State Patrol here in Washington. What they would do is they would go online and they would set up different profiles or like Craigslist ads, basically saying, sometimes explicitly, sometimes not so explicitly, come here if you want to have sex with children. And we've covered some of these stories before. In this case, it was an ad on Craigslist titled Comfort and Joy, according to the Yakima Herald Republic. And this, by the way, this initially happened in 2019. So it's taken a while to get this guy and get him through the court system. But they said it was from a woman looking for someone who was, quote, honest and discreet in order to help her family. It also said there was no role playing. And so the man here, Frederick Walter Thompson, 74 years old, who looks like a pervert. Like he has that look. He responds to the ad, and in the text messages, the woman told him that she was looking for a man who could sexually teach her 11 and 13-year-old daughters the same way her father taught her about sex. And this is all according to the court documents. And I'm going to leave it there because it's really disturbing. So why am I bringing this up? Because we don't normally do these kinds of crime stories out of nowhere. The reason why I'm bringing this up, you've got Democrats in Olympia who believe that this is not as serious of a crime as it is. And they pretend that there's no, quote unquote, child victim here, so we should go easy on these sexual predators. What do you think would happen to a man who, let's say, engages in these conversations and then meets up with an actual child? Do you think they say, oh, no, I only did this for the online fantasy? Or do you think they might actually follow through with the abuse? I'm going to go with that part, the latter. They're going to follow through with the abuse. And if we don't catch them in these tricks, it means they're still looking. And there are some perverted people out there who would offer their kids up for this. And they'll eventually meet. and those kids will be destroyed for the rest of their lives. And yet Democrats pretend this isn't that serious of a crime. We're the victims. Society is a victim with these people out there. And not only are they trying to lower the consequences, the punishments for net nanny stings, and ultimately trying to ban net nanny stings, they're getting in the way of any kind of oversight to stop these people from being released once they are committed. Claire Wilson, the state senator, blocked a bill that had some bipartisan support that would put additional rules on where child sex predators and other sex predators are being released into our communities. And she decided to get in the way of that. Why are they siding with child sex predators? While pretending that they care about the Epstein files, no doubt. It's just so disturbing. And so anytime we see these stories, I want to highlight them, not to just freak people out and gross people out, but I want you to know who the Democrats are fighting for. 1-800-465-8770 for your text messages. 1-800-465-8770. When we come back, we're going to get into a shockingly disingenuous story from CBS about ICE arrests. It truly is remarkable how bad faith this stuff is. We're going to get into that and so much more. Just remember that over the years, Sunset's Warranty Protection for Life has paid over $6 million in warranty claims because they value the long-term relationships with their customers. So stop by the Sunset Auto family for a complimentary warranty health check. Nothing is worse than a void warranty when you need it the most. You just get more at Sunset, and people do like that. Sunset Auto Family in Auburn and Sumner, online at sunsetautofamily.com.
A recent 5-star General Transmission Google review.
I had my 2018 Ford Mustang's transmission rebuilt at General Transmission, and I couldn't be more satisfied. Mark gave me a great deal, way more affordable than what the dealership quoted me. Not only did I save money, but the work was done quickly and professionally. Mark was honest and upfront throughout the whole process. I'll definitely be recommending him to friends and family. If you need your car fixed right, Mark at General Transmission is the guy to go to.
Welcome to guided meditation. Close your eyes. You're at the beach. The seagulls are calling. You take out your iPhone 16e you got from Cricket and use Apple Intelligence to clean up that selfie you just took. It's a good one. You send it to your friends instantly thanks to reliable nationwide 5G. They're totally jealous. Get iPhone 16e for $49.99 when you switch. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Requires new line on the Supreme Unlimited plan. First service charge and tax due at sale. $25 activation fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. See store for details.
Why'd I go to the doctor? Working on the farm, my heart kept skipping a beat. I didn't think much of it, but my daughters made me get checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Belize it or not, Flower World is giving away sunshine. Win a 7-day Belizean getaway for 2 at Flower World's very own Maya Heights Resort. Visit MayaHeights.com to win. The trip includes round-trip airfare from Seattle to Belize, 10% off dining and tours, and views stretching from the rainforest to the sea. Leave the umbrella at home with the rain. They'll provide the warmth. Enter at MayaHeights.com, your gateway to Belize. From Flower World, a world of flowers, plants, and a whole lot more.
You're losing your hair and you simply need a solution that works. You want the best. Modern technology, top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need world-class Dr. Perungo and his team at Advanced Hair. Advanced Hair has completely redefined hair restoration. From the experience itself to their unmatched results. Receding hairline, bald spot, thinning hair, maybe all 3 like I had. Get your hair back with Advanced Hair's simple 1-day treatment that begins to regrow your own natural hair the very next day. Advanced Hair has changed tens of thousands of lives, including mine. And get this, Advanced Hair is once again the winner of the 425 Business of the Year. For your free consultation, call 425-449-8185. Right now, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team that redefined hair restoration. That's 425-449-8185. Or for the before and afters, visit advancedhair.com.
Welcome back to the Jason Rantz Show. I know we normally let you pick the news. However, because I'm working remotely, I'll be picking the news today in this segment. And I want to talk about this sleight of hand that is so obvious it's insulting. And it happened from CBS News. And they want you to believe that ICE is rounding up people who aren't all that bad. That's the hook of the article that the administration spent all day yesterday pushing back against. This implication, I think, is pretty obvious, but CBS News decided to effectively redefine who was being apprehended by ICE or CBP, and they framed it as, quote unquote, only 14% of the people arrested are the violent offenders, the true worst of the worst. That's not actually what the data they were citing said. And they were citing DHS data, but they were doing it in a clearly disingenuous way. They're saying that really only 14% of the people who were deported or arrested for deportation were truly deserving, because the Trump administration said they were going after the worst of the worst. And yet, when you look at it, 14%, those are the ones that are the rapists and the murderers, and that's it, just 14%, which implies a whole bunch of other people aren't even breaking the law. And they go, well, actually, and we talked about this last night on the CNN panel, quote unquote, only 40% had criminal records or arrests. Except that's not what the actual data says. That's not what the data says. What they're doing is redefining danger, and they're doing it in the narrowest of way because that's the way it makes Donald Trump look like he's lying about what ICE is doing. This was the worst kind of journalism. And even in the article, they say about 60% of the people arrested do, in fact, have criminal records. But bad faith people are saying, yeah, but these are like low-level crimes. These are the non-violent felonies. Not even felonies. These are just non-violent crimes. Nonviolent. That was the big takeaway. And that was their gotcha moment. Trump said he was going after the violent people, the worst of the worst, but only 14% qualify. Except that's not the case. It's missing the point, but that's not the case. You know what's a nonviolent crime? Distributing child pornography. Could we all argue that that's one of the worst who deserves to be deported?
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I think we can all say, yeah, that person should be deported. And yet, that's not part of the 14%. Someone who's driving while intoxicated. Someone who is stealing IDs and voting illegally, like the woman in Massachusetts, the Columbia National. Isn't that someone who should be deported? I think so. I think most people think that. I think someone who robs a bank in the middle of the night, I think that person should be deported. I know, count me as crazy. But a lot of these crimes, including drug dealing, that's labeled as nonviolent. Drug dealing is nonviolent crime. Yeah, I don't care. I think that person's the worst of the worst. So this idea is just so absurd on its face. But there was a moment last night during the panel that I wanted to make, and it was important to make, I think. Charles Blow had looked, he's a columnist on the far left. He quoted some data point from this report. He goes, I went to DHS and I got the numbers. Do you know how many people are really the worst of the worst? I go, you're kind of missing the point. And it's not just about people who are being deported for breaking laws, but it's about deporting people before they break laws so they're not put in positions where they're breaking laws.
Blake and Riley's killer was not a criminal prior to the murder. I think that's part of the point here.
So you want to point out one.
I think you have people who are unvetted.
Individuals.
I think you have people. Yes, of course. Just like you Googled some data and then you threw it out there. But that's part of the point.
I went to the Department of Homeland.
Hey, Jackson, he went to the Department of Homeland Security.
Wait, but I thought they were all fascist, and like he trusts them?
Yeah, apparently he does. And I do like you Google data. No, I went to the DHS. You Googled it. That's it.
Let me let Charles finish his thought. The point is an important one here. We have people coming in unvetted. And that is a reality that folks don't want to acknowledge on your side of this argument. If you were out there,
what is my side? Because I actually don't believe that we
I'm sorry, but if the people were out there on the side of the Democrats right now who celebrate going after the rapists and the murderers and attack that with the same passion that they do the individual one-offs who have been mistakenly targeted, this would be a completely different conversation.
One or two one-offs that have been mistakenly targeted?
Yes, 1 or 2 one-offs. When you look at the actual
percentage, that's the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard.
Let me just address that.
It's such a devastating fact to hear, but it is a fact. And I love this whole idea. He starts off, when I say Laken Riley, he goes, oh, you want to focus on one person? I'm like, that's literally what you're doing. You have an individual who maybe gets mistakenly caught up in an arrest, and you turn this into some cause to get behind. And yet when Laken Riley's murdered, or Rachel Morin, or Jocelyn Nungary, and so many others, when that happens, you don't want to talk about it. They never bring that up. But again, they're saying, well, they're in this country illegally, and, well, is it that big of a deal? Yeah, it is. And last night, I've got the clips up on social media, so just go Jason Rantz Show on Facebook or Jason Rantz on Instagram, X, or YouTube. Abby brings up, the host, Abby Phillip, brings up a case of a guy from Ireland who was just picked up, and he's getting up for deportation. And they say, well, he had a valid work visa. He was getting ready to marry an American. He did initially have a visa. And they're throwing that out there as if that's all that meaningful. But when you look at the data, which I did before going on air, he had a 90-day visa. Do you know when that expired, Jackson? Any guesses?
Wasn't it like 20 years ago or something?
Oh, almost. It was 16, 17 years ago. It was 2009 that he got a 90-day visa. 2009. He's overstayed. Oh, but he's going to marry a woman. Yeah, 17 years later, 16 years later. So here's my question. At what point do people on the left who seem to be objecting anytime someone who's overstayed a visa is deported, what's the cutoff? If they're not going to just come out and say they want mass amnesty, which Caroline Downey brought up on this show last night, and was like, no, we're not calling for mass amnesty. Okay, well then what is the cutoff for when someone should be deported? If you've overstayed 91 days, okay, I hear your point. If it's 100 days, I hear your point. If it's a year, maybe I hear your point. But 16, 17 years? How is that not the trigger? Well, but you might get married to a woman he just met within the last year. So were you okay with deportation for 15 years, but now all of a sudden, like, it's just a disingenuous argument.
He was also offered instant deportation back to Ireland, but he declined.
Which he signed. Well, no, he eventually signed it, but then he goes, oh, no, actually, I didn't. It was forged.
Oh, okay, yeah. So now he's
I'm being tortured, he says.
Now he's in a detention center, yeah.
Exactly. It's all such a scam, and it's important we all see through it. 1-800-465-8770 for your texts.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side, your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. And now, during our President's Day sale, take 50% off our limited edition bed, plus free premium delivery with any bed and base. Ends Monday. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
Not sure how to tackle your taxes? Are you sweating the small print? You may be experiencing FOMO, the fear of messing up. The answer? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then we help you do more with it with a personalized plan designed to help you hit your money goals. It's time to take your taxes to the max. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Is it time to get your home sold? Nick Southard with Upgrade Realty here. Selling hundreds of homes around the Sound for over 25 years has taught me presentation is everything. And with my luxurious marketing, you'll attract tons of buyers, sell fast at top dollar, and net more money. Because Upgrade Realty will save you thousands in fees for only 1% listing commission. To learn more, visit upgraderealty.com. Upgrade your listing for 1%. Upgraderealty.com.
Logan Fury did something smart. He saved hundreds on auto insurance switching to Progressive. With that money, he bought a mini treadmill. Is walking on it during video conference calls more distracting than he thought? Yes. And is that because he overestimated his foot-eye coordination? Definitely. But it's Logan's savings, and if he wants to burn calories and any chance at a promotion, we say, good for you, Logan. Switch and see if you could save with Progressive and treat yourself. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. You know, the big wireless companies say they have discounts for people over 55. But unless you're willing to sit on hold and ask, you're probably paying more than you should. At Consumer Cellular, there's nothing to hunt down. We're built for people 50 plus with plans starting at just $20. And our 100% US-based customer service actually answers the phone. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today and get your second month free for a limited time.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Belize it or not, there's sunshine waiting for you in Belize. Win a free 7-day stay, including round-trip airfare from Seattle to Belize, and stay at the Flower World-owned Belizean Resort. Check out MayaHeights.com for rules and to enter for a chance to win. Maya Heights Resort, a beautiful restaurant, resort, 1,000-acre farm, and views to enjoy on the terrace in paradise. Belize will provide the warmth and adventure while Flower World provides the trip. MayaHeights.com, your gateway to Belize. From Flower World.
Seattle Red on 770 KTTH Seattle, 97.3 KIRO FM, HD3 Tacoma Seattle, 94.5 K233 DT Eastlake, 33 BU Seattle.
An increased law enforcement presence. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office back at the home of Nancy Guthrie and her daughter Annie after the FBI released video doorbell footage of a potential suspect.
Kash Patel announced that just this morning they had been able to get what he called residual data from back-end systems working with their partners. We assume he means Google there, which owns the Nest camera brand, and get these very clear images from the early hours of Sunday, February 1st, the front door of Nancy Guthrie's home.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt in Tucson. The short clip had no images of Nancy Guthrie. Just yesterday, Savannah Guthrie released another video pleading for the public's help, saying they're in their hour of desperation. The White House says President Trump has seen the new video. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says he's encouraging anyone with information to contact the FBI. The Bureau has posted digital billboards in major cities across the Southwest in hopes of getting leads. President Trump calling on Congress to pass the SAVE Act, which he claims will cut down on voter fraud. The bill would do away with most mail-in ballots, telling Fox Business's Larry Kudlow.
We want people to have voter ID. We want people to have proof of citizenship. And we want to have no mail-in ballots other than if you're in the military or you're sick or you're away or some reasonable but good excuse.
The bill would require voters to show proof of citizenship and or ID at the polls. Democrats say the bill is designed to disenfranchise voters, and at least one Republican, Alaska's Lisa Murkowski, has said that she will vote against it. Ratings company Nielsen says Sunday's Super Bowl averages 124.9 million viewers in the U.S., with Bad Bunny's halftime show averaging 128.2 million, both short of records. America's listening to Fox News.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take DayQuil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the DayQuil.
Undo your flu symptoms with DayQuil Intense Flu. DayQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
DayQuil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Folks! The yellow light! I'm walking here! I'm walking!
Good afternoon and welcome to the Jason Rantz Show. We are here on Seattle Red 770 AM. We are streaming on the Seattle Red app, broadcasting from the New York studios for today and for tomorrow as I'm in town doing CNN. We got a lot to get to. The latest in the millionaire tax, plus Cliff Mass is calling out the Seattle Times again. More misinformation from the Times. But first, Sheriff Keith Swank to the rescue. That's what's trending.
What's trending in Pierce County?
So this is what leadership looks like when someone actually listens to the voters. And not just his own constituents, but the voters. Pierce County Sheriff Keith Swank came out to do something radical. He said he's going to actually side with voters who have said time and time and time again, overwhelmingly, that they think car tab fees are too high. They voted to lower them, only to be completely ignored by Washington Democrats. And so now he's saying, yeah, I'm going to take you guys seriously, even when Olympia refuses to. We've got the story up at SeattleRed.com. And he's coming out there saying, look, the Washington Democrats, they are pursuing more aggressive approaches, specifically to car tab fees, collecting fees that have not been paid. We've talked before. Tim Eyman has been on the show saying it's been years since he's paid his car tabs. And so Democrats introduced a bill that is very aggressive and just absolutely bruising in its punishment. And so what Swank is saying via Twitter or via X, yeah, you can go ahead and pass this all you want. We're not enforcing it. He says we're not going to enforce it. He's saying it's not proportional to the so-called crime. It's illegitimate because the voters have said multiple times not to do this, and you're doing it anyway, and you're violating your oath to represent the people. So I'm not going to do it. We have discretion. Every cop has discretion. It's, not just specifically for sheriff's deputies. It's every single agency from Pierce County to Clark County to Spokane Valley to the City of Republic. Every single officer, every single deputy, they've got discretion. And so we're going to use our discretion to undermine this policy by simply ignoring it. He's saying, I'm not diverting limited law enforcement resources to punish people over a car tab fee structure that has been rejected over and over and over again. And of course, there's going to be some people who say, well, that's defiance. Okay, fine. You can argue it's defiance. It's not defiance for the sake of defiance. It's common sense. And let's be honest about the politics here. Olympia didn't suddenly discover some concern for the supposed public safety tied to car tabs issue. This is a revenue grab. The only reason why they're doing this is they want even more revenue. And we talked about this last week, where you've got the cigarette tax. They're not pretending anymore that it was about health. It was about being a disincentive for people to smoke. They openly said, yeah, we're only doing this because we want to take more money. Like, they literally said that. What's her name? Lisa Parsley, the state representative, said that. And we've also got that written up at SeattleRed.com. And so what Swank is doing here, I would argue, is restoring public trust. Because there are a lot of us who are sick and tired of voting and then being completely ignored. Being told, yeah, we're going to dismiss your vote because we don't like it. We're sick of being told our voices don't matter right up until they actually say no. And so when we've got a sheriff, be it Keith Swank or literally any other, who says, I believe you actually understood what it is you voted for. I believe you when you say you want this 4, 5, 6, 7 times. When you have a sheriff who says that, that resonates. And yeah, I'm not going to pretend that I'm not generally uncomfortable about any member of law enforcement saying they're just going to reject a law. I'm also not going to pretend that I'm upset about this or even made uncomfortable about this specifically. The rule of law depends on legitimacy. And when you've got laws imposed in direct contradiction to the voters who have literally taken to the polls and participated in our system to say we're against this, and you do it anyway, the legitimacy of it all just kind of erodes. It erodes. And Keith Swank is doing something about that, even if you don't like the way he's doing it. And by the way, notice what he doesn't say on X. He didn't say stop paying taxes or your car tabs. He didn't encourage chaos. He didn't suggest ignoring serious crimes. He made a targeted, specific decision about enforcement priorities tied directly to voter will. And it's no different than what the Democrats are doing, except this is at least virtuous. Democrats are out there saying that we shouldn't enforce anything around immigration law at all. The Fed shouldn't. Not only should they not get involved at the local level, they're saying the Fed shouldn't. That's not restraint. What Swank is doing is restraint. That's good judgment. And more importantly, it's accountability that's going in the right direction for once. From elected officials to the people, not the other way around. It's accountability from them to us. And if they don't like it, they have options. They can actually listen. They can respect the votes. They can respect their constituents. Or I guess they can keep passing laws that require local law enforcement to do their own dirty work and hope that people are willing to do it. And we all have to hope there are going to be some local law enforcement, like Keith Swank, who say, yeah, we're not going to do the dirty work for them. He just told them, hey, I'm not going to play along with this. And I think more officials in this state could use that kind of backbone. And so kudos to Keith Swank. If you want to support him and his efforts here, go ahead and give him some support by going to seattlered.com, clicking on the story, and then sharing the story. It is really that simple. 1-800-465-8770 for your texts. Let's find out what else is trending.
What's trending? The economy.
Washington Democrats are yet again sharpening their knives for the so-called wealthy, the rich, the privileged. And they're doing it with a whole lot of confidence that I think betrays the facts on the ground. There were a historic number of Washingtonians who signed on to the con for their millionaire tax. And I saw some union stooges going on Fox 13 saying, oh, well, you know, there could have been bots that signed. No, there are no bots. There's no evidence of bots. That's just a made-up issue to give some political cover. But it's odd that they're doing this with such confidence because they want us to believe that there's not significant pushback to this so-called millionaire tax, which is not only going to go after millionaires. And it's funny because they're doing this just a few months after we saw a historic rise in taxes that impacted everybody. Now, we've got an update as of yesterday. It actually happened during the show where they advanced the millionaire tax out of their committee. And it is 100% going to pass. They are going to pass this. It's going to get through to some lower level judge before ultimately getting to the Washington State Supreme Court, where they'll either reject it rightly, but then have Governor Bob Ferguson and Democrats say, well, we tried to go after the rich. Now we're going to have to go after everybody because we've got a revenue problem, which we don't actually have. We have a spending problem. Or they'll just redefine what the law says and pretend that this isn't clearly unconstitutional. But what they did in all of this is they kind of expanded it, or at least they're talking about it, lowering thresholds, treating the wealth as something to grow the economy. That something to be hunted down and harvested for their funds. And it's where the Democrats always pretend not to understand basic human behavior. They talk about millionaires and billionaires as well as if they're like potted plants. As if they'll just sit there politely while the state keeps moving the goalposts and pretend they don't have lawyers and accountants, pretend that they don't have mobility and options to move. And then reality ends up showing up. There was an article, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal originally. Fox News had picked it up. Others have as well, that Mark Zuckerberg, of course, the half creator and CEO of Meta, he is the latest to at least partially ditch California. This is a billionaire who's getting hit with a billionaire tax in California, and he's now buying and building a home in Florida, Indian Creek, which has been labeled, I learned, billionaire bunker. And this is not going to be a vacation condo. It's not. This is going to be where he sets up residence because he's going to benefit from a tax perspective by setting up residency there. He might still leave, and he will still leave Meta offices in California. This isn't going to impact Meta directly like it would him as a billionaire, but take away his tax revenue, all of it. He could have kept most of it in California had they not made this move there. And this is what we're going to see happen in Washington. And to be clear, with Mark Zuckerberg, that is a statement. He is making a statement. And it's part of a very obvious pattern. California has been doing this for a while, and they've lost trillions of dollars in revenue coming from taxes as a direct result a direct result of these kinds of schemes. And Washington is following the exact same script. We've seen this movie before, including the part where they just deny everything on the left. Democrats keep telling us that any kind of wealth tax, a millionaire tax, a payroll tax, whatever it is, capital gains tax, doesn't push people out. They say that. That's how they frame every single response, as in the past it hasn't pushed anyone out, in the future it won't push anyone out. These are just scare tactics coming from the right. These are conservative talking points. But we know how this ends because we've watched it play out in real time. We see it happening in California, and we've already seen it here in Washington where people left. They took out their money. We know that that's going to happen because it's already happened. And Florida benefits, Texas benefits, Idaho benefits. States that don't have a capital gains tax at the state level benefit. And it's openly advertising that fact to the high net worth individuals here in Washington state. They're saying, we dare you to go somewhere else. Despite the fact that there have been dozens of examples, high profile examples, of millionaires and billionaires saying, okay, I'll take on that bet. I'll take on that dare. We'll go ahead and do it. And the pitch coming from those other states like Florida, it's really simple. Bring us your money, bring us your business, bring us your tax base, and we're not going to treat you like a villain. That's for California. That's for Washington. We're not going to do that here. And people like Zuckerberg are saying, you know what, fair point. You make a really good argument. Doesn't need to sell Facebook stock tomorrow as a result. Doesn't need to shut down Meta. All he has to do is establish residency, like Jeff Bezos did, from Washington to Florida. That's all he has to do. A mailing address. A few boxes checked correctly on some, tax statement. That's it. And then all of a sudden, California realizes what they've done the same way Washington will realize what they're doing. All of this is the part that Democrats never want to talk about. They talk about taxing the rich. It's time to pay their fair share. That's the language that they constantly use. It's lazy. It's a talking point that doesn't mean anything. But that doesn't mean Senator Yasmin Trudeau
We've had a
won't use
lot of benefit to the top, which is why we've attracted so many wealthy folks, some of which have been quite open about coming here to shield that wealth.
Okay, so even using her stupid argument, if they're coming here to shield the wealth and you're taking away that shield, they would leave. They would leave. And I don't blame them, of course. But her own argument is in conflict with the statement from the Democrats. Right? Democrats tell you they're not going to leave. But Yasmin Trudeau says the only reason they're here is because they can shield their wealth. And we're taking away that shield. So why is it that they don't think they'll respond? And, Republicans are doing what they can to sound the alarms. John Braun from Centralia, Senate Minority.
This is a big deal. We have a lot of work to do to stop this bill. It's pretty clear to us. I hope it's pretty clear to you where this is going. They want to get it by demonizing folks who have been successful in our state and then expanding it to everyone long term.
They like to punish success and at the same time take credit for success. You didn't build that. You didn't make that. You didn't earn that. We did. The collective society. No, you really didn't. And at the end of all of this, as Perry Dozier pointed out, the bill doesn't help a single Washingtonian.
There is nothing in this bill right now that is making Washington State affordable, other than if you want to go to bed at night and say, hey, that millionaire, he's going to pay more. But I don't have money to buy food tomorrow.
He's right. 1-800-465-8770 for your text messages. 1-800-465-8770. Here's the thing most dealers won't tell you. Chevy pricing is basically the same everywhere. MSRP is MSRP. The difference isn't the car, it's what you get after you buy it. And that's why the Sunset Auto family keeps winning. And that's why customers keep choosing them. Sunset Chevrolet, #1 in Washington. You just get more at Sunset, and people do like that. Let's find out what else is trending.
What's trending in Everett?
Como TV had a story that caught my attention because in a lot of ways it cuts against some of the data we've seen in the past, although I've been pretty upfront when looking at, in particular, speed cameras. There's mixed data. You can see data locally that says, yeah, putting up a speed camera made it safer at an intersection. You can also find a lot of data that says the opposite. It actually had more crashes after it was installed. So I'm not entirely sure I know where I stand on this as to whether or not it's quote unquote effective. One thing I know about putting up these cameras is that you're basically profiting off of bad behavior without changing the bad behavior as a guarantee. And in Everett, they put up a bunch of speeding cameras, and they say they saw crashes go down at several intersections where they were installed. And that's obviously a good thing. They had a presentation, I believe it was last week, at one of their council meetings, and they said at each of the 6 intersections with red light cameras, they've seen fewer crashes since they were installed in 2024. And they say 21 crashes were reported, for example, at Casino Road and Evergreen Way in 2023. Then they put up the traffic cameras, and it went down to 9. They said they only saw 9 at that same intersection after the cameras went up. Now, I certainly believe that when you tell people there's a camera there and you make it really obvious, it's going to have some effect. But I also don't think looking at 1 year of data is all that meaningful. It could just have fewer people driving at night during one of these camera year studies, and it resulted in fewer crashes, and we need more data. But obviously going from 21 to 9 is promising. But the interesting part about this story is that the people who they talk to, the folks who live in Everett, they're like, hey, that's all well and good to have these cameras up, and I'm grateful that it cut down on the crashes there. But everywhere else where there isn't a camera, we're having a really, really bad time. They say we're having an increase in crashes and speeding everywhere else. And so Como spoke to some people, including this one person named Kiefer, who said, yeah, there's not going to be really anything you can do.
It's just people getting to work, rush hours, traffic. I mean, it's with traffic, people are going to speed to get out of it. People are going to speed to get past it. People are going to speed to get away from it. I feel like speeding's kind of always going to be around. It's kind of hard to curb it.
Okay, but now obviously someone will say, but look at the data. When you have these 6 intersections with the cameras, it showed results. So I guess here's my question for people at home, especially the ones that I like to make fun of who claim that they're against a surveillance society. Big Brother's watching. So let us live in a world in which it is indisputably true that setting up one of these cameras leads to fewer instances of speeding and thus fewer crashes or fewer loss of life and serious injuries due to crashes. Let's just say that that's true. If it's true, do you then want these cameras everywhere? Because dare I say, as much as some people will bring up the argument about this being a Big Brother scenario, I think most people are willing to put up with crashes if it means they can speed without getting a ticket. I have no doubt about that whatsoever, that we are all selfish enough to say, it won't happen to me. I'm not going to be the one who gets injured in a car accident or killed in a car accident or someone I know. It's going to be someone else. And I'm okay with someone else getting hit because it means I can speed to get to work faster or get home faster. Don't you think that's the truth?
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And no one wants to admit that. I mean, I'll admit that I'm okay with accidents happening if it means I can speed. I don't want people to die. Or if I did, I wouldn't say that on the radio because that would be dumb. But I do think that if people were being truly honest, they'd say it is a societal write-off. And it's not even all that controversial of a position because it's something we know. If you get hit, Jackson, by a car driving 5 miles per hour, what's going to happen? Maybe you get tipped over?
Yeah.
But you're not going to get injured.
Yeah, very mild at worst. I mean,
if that, but you're going to be fine. You're not going to die. There may be a scratch if you fall down, I guess, but nothing happens. What happens if they're driving 25 miles per hour?
I'd be dead.
Or 35 miles an hour?
Yeah, I'd be flattened.
45 miles a hour. Like, the higher it is, obviously, the higher the risk. Now, maybe you'll survive the 25 in fairness, but you'll get injured, certainly. 35, injured for sure. 45, you're almost certainly dead unless you get really, really lucky, right? So we all know that. That's not controversial. And yet, is anyone out there outside of the anti-car people who work for Seattle city government, is anyone saying that we should lower the speed limit to 5? No. Why? Because we're saying we will take the risk. We find a certain risk acceptable. We find a certain number acceptable. Now, we're not going to be able to say, I find X amount of, and be very specific on the car accidents that we find acceptable in order to keep our mile per hour at 35 or 55 or 60 or whatever it is. I don't know what that number is, but we know when it's gone too high. If tomorrow we find out that we looked at the 2025 data and it showed 1,000 people dying in car accidents, we'd all say, okay, well, that's too high. We got to do something. But that number comes out and we say it's 100. Society, we say, okay, we're willing to accept that. Isn't that a reality? So why are people so hesitant to be honest about it? No answer? You're just confused?
You stumped me. I don't...
Okay, that's not a brag from me. To stump you?
I didn't... It wasn't intended to be. But...
What is Duncan saying? Is he nodding along in agreement at least?
Yeah, actually, I haven't seen him today, actually.
Did he not come in because I'm broadcasting from the Fox studio?
I think he might be trying to pull a fast one.
Okay, you're in charge when I'm gone, dude. Find him and make sure he's not lost somewhere or locked in a room somewhere.
Well, I put an AirTag on him, but it's not maybe he took it off. It's not registering.
Jeez. Okay. And no more putting the interns in your charge. 1-800-465-8770 for your text when we come back. Our friend Cliff Mass, he's calling out the Seattle Times again. What lie did they tell this time? Stick around.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Benjamin Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G service. What's up with that? Ben Franklin wasn't even a president. When you switch to Pure Talk, you'll be in business with an American wireless company that supports our vets in a big way and keeps all their customer service in this country. That's important. And you'll be on the same towers the big carriers use, so you'll get the same 5G service without the inflated price. So hang on to your Benjamins and switch to Pure Talk for a Jackson and a Lincoln. No contract, no hidden fees. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and you'll get 50% off your first month when you switch. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, for an American wireless company that is truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. You know, the big wireless companies say they have discounts for people over 55, but unless you're willing to sit on hold and ask, you're probably paying more than you should. At Consumer Cellular, there's nothing to hunt down. We're built for people 50 plus with plans starting at just $20. And our 100% US-based customer service actually answers the phone. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today and get your second month free for a limited time.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Jeff's day is off to a slow start. So he heads to AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination, where Sammy, a local AutoZoner, tests his battery for free. Looks like he just needs a charge, and Sammy does that for free too. In no time at all, Jeff is back on the road, ready to finish the day strong. Free battery testing and charging at every store. No hassles, just help.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Thanks for calling CM Heating. How can I help?
Yeah, hi. Aren't you the company that gives away free furnaces?
Yep, that's us. Buy a qualifying high-efficiency cooling system and the furnace is absolutely free.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and our home comfort advisors are tax credit and rebate specialists, so we'll help you save the most and even handle the rebate process start to finish.
Amazing, but what if I just need a furnace?
All good. Furnaces start at just $69.99 a month. And don't forget to ask about our clean air upgrades, because with all the smoke from wildfires, these systems filter out pollen, dust, and harmful particles, keeping the air in your home clean and healthy all year long.
Sweet.
Go to CM Heating for better comfort, lower bills, a free furnace you'll love for years, and cleaner air for your home. Get your free estimate for furnace replacement at cmheating.com. And remember, for furnaces, fireplaces, hot water, total home comfort, and electrical service,
There's no beating
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter. With other language learning apps, I was just playing games. I wasn't really learning. Babbel's different.
Babbel was designed by over 200 language learning experts to be the most effective way to learn another language.
Every time I open the app, I can choose to work on my writing, speaking, or listening. And it saves my mistakes for me to review, so I'm constantly improving. Before Babbel, I thought I just wasn't good with languages. But now I'm speaking French. Tout ça, c'est grâce à Babbel.
Save up to 50% on your Babbel subscription when you sign up at Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Those of you interested in building your very own shop, horse arena, or farm equipment storage, Pac West Arenas will provide your engineering and a kit if needed. A kit includes step-by-step instructions, unlimited communication, and a one-time 4-hour site visit from an expert. If you also need engineering, Pac West Arenas will guarantee it in 10 business days. Consult an engineering and kit expert. Pac West Arenas, your one-stop shop for all your pole building needs. Go to PacWestArenas.com.
Be a part of all the excitement at Beasley Coliseum this year. Come cheer on the Washington State Cougars men's and women's basketball teams as they host the likes of Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and Oregon State in conference play this season. Don't miss out on all the action. Grab your tickets to upcoming WSU basketball games today at WSUCougars.com/tix. Again, that's WSUCougars.com/TIX. See you at Beasley Coliseum. Go Cougs!
The Jason Rantz Show.
All right, let's break it down with Seattle radio host and author Jason Rantz.
Jason, if I didn't know you, my first question would be, do you make these stories up?
No, they accepted this proposal.
I guess it's a measure of how much they really don't like Trump, isn't it?
Long form.
My next guest is yet again calling out the Seattle Times for their consistently misleading coverage about climate-related issues. This time, they tell us that we are bracing for another drought as the snowpack lags. But Cliff Mass from the University of Washington says, okay, no, let's actually get some of the details that are fact-based. And he joins me now. Cliff, welcome back to the show.
Thanks a lot.
We get the story that's essentially predicting that this entire year we're basically going to be facing a major drought because of poor snowpack. Snowpack that they argue is driven by climate change. Is there any truth to what it is they're saying?
Not too much, unfortunately. First, our reservoirs are very full, and in fact, if you look at the critical Yakima reservoirs, they're way, way above normal. So the reservoirs are in great shape. The rivers are running full, and the soils are quite moist. So, drought needs to have impacts, and there are no impacts of any lack of water. The only issue right now is that the snowpack is below normal in much of the area. Not all of it, but much of it. But that is too early. We cannot conclude what the snowpack will be this summer right now. But even if the snowpack is low, we have so much water in the reservoirs that we should be fine. So there's really no acute problem here, and I don't expect one to develop.
So are they only looking at that data early on to come to this conclusion based on that report?
Well, as I mentioned, the rivers and the reservoirs are full. So they're fixated on the snowpack. Well, the snowpack right now is below normal. But, we have plenty of time to build the snowpack up. And in fact, the weather models for the next few weeks have a cold, wet situation. Mm-hmm. So we know for a fact that there's going to be plenty of snow, and particularly in the places we need it the most, from southern Washington down to Oregon. The models are showing a persistent pattern of cold troughs coming in that should really help replenish the snow down there. So it's just too early to call for an emergency of any type at this point.
But you're not shocked that that's precisely what it is they're doing, right?
No. And in fact, the way they work it is they can get drought in a million ways. Drought should be a lack of water right now for societal needs. A drought should have impact. Well, there is no impact now. So they're calling for a drought. They're saying we're in a drought now, but we're not in a drought. And this is based on a predicted drought, which they don't know is even going to occur. So they can get a drought now if it's dry now, if it's dry in the past, if it's dry in the future. They can get drought so many different ways. It's we can see why drought is being called by these folks all the time. And what really makes it bad is they inevitably try to connect it with climate change.
And in their article, I just want to quote part of that article because you call it out in your blog. They say, increasingly, rising temperatures fueled by climate change mean that precipitation over the region is falling as rain rather than snow, or that the snowpack is melting much earlier than normal. And you say that is definitely not true.
That's right. Now, that was very deceptive. I mean, that was downright wrong. Why didn't we get the normal amount of snow during the last month? That's not because of climate change. It's because we had a high pressure area that was stationary over the West Coast. And associated with that, there was a trough of low pressure over the East Coast. So the East Coast had colder than normal weather, snowier than normal weather. Are they blaming that on climate change? Of course not. And so here in the West, we had this high pressure area. And high-pressure areas over the West Coast have nothing to do with climate change. There is no research, there's no reason, theoretical or practical, to suppose that high pressure over the West Coast is associated with climate change. So their claims are patently false.
Every time I talk with you, I always think to myself, is there the potential issue of you being known as the guy who always says no to climate change, even though you and I have talked many times about the issue of climate change, and you're not a climate denier or anything. We go to you, and you often call out the Seattle Times because of how over the top they are in their coverage. But do you worry about that being your brand, as seen as the guy who just always will say, no, this isn't climate change, which is ironic because no one is saying on the left, the Seattle Times is the place you go to whenever they want to just simply blame climate change, even though there's no data about it.
Well, I'm just giving the truth. And, if I'm branded that's okay with me. There is climate change. And when they mean by climate change, they mean warming caused by human emission of greenhouse gases. Well, that's definitely going on. CO2 is going up. And the planet is slowly warming. There's no doubt about that. And as that continues, the snowpack will progressively and slowly decline, okay? So I don't know why saying that makes me a denier or anything else. What they're trying to do is assume that there's these terrible impacts, profound impacts now, when the truth is global warming is slow and the snowpack is slowly declining. But when you have a year like this where, the values in some places are 50% of normal snowpack, that has nothing to do with climate change. That has to do with weather and the patterns of the large-scale flow. And what they're saying is basically untrue.
Let's talk a little bit about weather, not even so much in the near short term, but headed towards Friday, the weekend, and the next week. I saw some early reports suggesting that it's possible it's going to start to get wet and cold the way it is right now. I'm in New York for the broadcast this week, and it's not wet, but my God, is it cold.
Well, the East Coast has been terribly cold. I mean, places like Long Island, which is not known for its cold, they were down to 3 degrees a day ago. So, I mean, that's
it was 9 degrees last night when I landed, and I have never been as cold as I was last night. And then this morning, just on the walk over to Fox News, it was 12 degrees, and boy, did it feel way colder than that.
Well, it did feel colder than that because there was wind. So the wind chill was well below zero in 0 degrees Fahrenheit in much of New York. And so this is an extraordinarily cold period. So there's absolutely no doubt about that.
What about in Western Washington? What will it be like this weekend and into next?
Well, the models are pretty emphatic, and they all pretty much agree that, there's some showers today. We'll have a dry period for a few days, but then it gets moist. And there's a series of low-pressure areas that'll be descending down the West Coast, one after the other, which means the West Coast will be wetter and cooler than normal. Now, interestingly enough, these lows are plunging down the coast. So Oregon to Northern California is going to be the center of the activity, which is perfect because that's where things have been drier than normal in terms of snowpack, less snowpack. So basically, the pattern is switched completely from what it was last month. Instead of high pressure, we have low pressure coming in. So the problem's over, folks. And so just where they need the snow, they're going to get it. And so we're going to be in much better situation in 2 weeks from now. There's little doubt. This is not climate change prediction. This is weather prediction.
Yeah, and again, doesn't it seem somewhat normal around this time of year?
It is. And it is not unusual to have this dry period, cold or dry period in the month of January. In fact, we had it last year. If you remember, we had that really cold, dry period. So it definitely happens. And so what happens is, the jet stream tends to go south during the middle of the winter, and it gets Northern California and Oregon. But then progressively, as you get into the late winter, early spring, the jet stream moves northward again, and that pushes precipitation back into our area, Washington State. And so you can bet on it, and the models are suggesting that.
There you go. See, I could have just texted you and asked you all these questions, and you would have been very annoyed but polite and responded back. But I said to myself, no, let's give all this information out to the audience. We've been talking with Cliff Mass, UW Atmospheric Sciences professor. Thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it. The website, by the way, is cliffmass.blogspot.com. Make sure you're checking it out. Cliff, thank you.
Good. Sure. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. You're listening to The Jason Rantz Show on Seattle Red 770 AM, online at seattlered.com.
If your furnace isn't working right, that's an All Red emergency. Call the heat doctors at All Red Heating, Cooling, and Electric. Our licensed and certified techs bring the heat, treating every brand of furnace, from quick diagnostics to on-the-spot repairs and getting your home warm again fast with no surprise upfront pricing. Go to trustallred.com because if it's all red, it's all right. Trustallred.com.
If it's all red, it's all right. Belize it or not, Flower World is giving away sunshine. Win a 7-day Belizean getaway for 2 at Flower World's very own Maya Heights Resort. Visit MayaHeights.com to win. The trip includes round-trip airfare from Seattle to Belize, 10% off dining and tours, and views stretching from the rainforest to the sea. Leave the umbrella at home with the rain. They'll provide the warmth. Enter at MayaHeights.com, your gateway to Belize. From Flower World, a world of flowers, plants, and a whole lot more.
Guy Benson here. I've been telling you about this journey I'm on to get healthier, to lose a few pounds, overall feel and look better. Enter the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic, headquartered in Kirkland. You can do this program, though, wherever you are. I did a 15-minute consultation with Dr. Coogan and his team. They were great. I decided to get on board, and the results have been amazing so far. As of late last week, Adam and I combined 21 pounds lost in less than 2 weeks. Christine, you're doing this too. What have you been feeling?
Guy, in less than 2 weeks, I am down 6 pounds so far. But the best thing about this diet is truly the fact that I physically and mentally feel so much better.
All right, so if you're in this situation and you want to maybe learn more, at least schedule a 15-minute phone call with Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. Go to eastsideweightlossclinic.com, at eastsideweightlossclinic.com. Dr. Ryan Coogan, D.C., results may vary.
Welcome to guided meditation. Close your eyes. You're at the beach. The seagulls are calling. You take out your iPhone 16e you got from Cricket and use Apple Intelligence to clean up that selfie you just took. It's a good one. You send it to your friends instantly thanks to reliable nationwide 5G. They're totally jealous. Get iPhone 16e for $49.99 when you switch. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Requires new line on the Supreme Unlimited plan. First service charge and tax due at sale. $25 activation fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. See store for details.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter. You know the one question that guys hate to have asked of them by their wives, Nick?
I can take a good guess.
I know you know 100 of them. This is the worst one. Do these jeans make my butt look big?
Whoa.
Can't answer that one, right? What I've noticed is whenever you ask me questions like that, I just simply say, oh, I don't know. What do the doctors at Longevity Medical Clinic say?
Well, the doctors at Longevity Medical Clinic would tell me that my butt looks great in those jeans now that my hormones are balanced.
What'd they do? Did they give you something to bring your weight down?
No, just a result of having my hormones balanced caused me to lose weight. Who would have known? I had no idea that would be a result of it.
So that's good. So the answer is you look great. You're beautiful.
I feel great. I look great.
Yeah.
And I know it.
I've also noticed that your testosterone makes you a little feistier than you normally are as my beautiful Greek wife.
I might be small, but I have a loud bark.
Yes, you do. Do what Nick and I have done. Take a free health analysis at longevitymedicalclinic.com.
The Jason Rantz Show.
Bring in Jason Rantz, Seattle Red 770 AM host, and also SeattleRed.com. Jason, great to have you with us.
Jason, Seattle is just continually ground zero.
Yeah, and this is really the Pacific Northwest is ground zero for all this nonsense.
USA Today is mocking the far left.
The quick hit.
Some pretty significant news that I don't think really cut through to the media, including, by the way, conservative media. I haven't heard a whole lot about this, but this is actually an incredibly important story out of the Fifth Circuit. They just ruled that if you entered this country illegally, you don't magically earn a bond hearing just because you managed to stay here for a while. And I think that that's really important. This is not radical. This is just the law, exactly as Congress determined it to be. And yet, again, we keep having everything redefined by the left, saying, well, the longer you're in this country illegally, the better the case you have and should have to stay here. But everything got twisted upside down during the Biden administration because they decided to stop enforcing border laws. That's it. They stopped enforcing immigration laws. That's what's radical. Now, in this particular case, it involved 2 Mexican nationals who came into this country illegally. One was in 2001. The second was in 2009. And finally, in 2025, they were encountered by ICE. And they argued that because they'd been living here for years, that they should get bond hearings while fighting the removal. And the district courts, earlier courts said, yeah, totally true. Yeah, you get your bond hearing, and then you can live freely as you go through this process. But the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal said, no. We're not ruling on vibes. We're not ruling on politics. We're just looking at the text of federal immigration law. And I read earlier this morning the vast majority of this appeal document. And the key point was under the Immigration and Nationality Act. Anyone who's in this country without having been lawfully admitted, by definition, is considered a applicant for admission. That's how they are considered in the law. And that's an important piece. That's an incredibly important piece. Arguably, it's the most important piece because that sets up how these individuals are treated. And Congress was really clear about what happens to applicants for admission into this country, the ones who can't show that they clearly are entitled to be here. It says it. They shall be detained during removal proceedings. Not might be, shall be. Not, well, unless they've been here a long time. No. Shall. The wording here matters. And the challengers in this, the 2 Mexican nationals, their lawyers tried to play a word game, claiming that the detention rule would only apply to someone who's actively seeking admission, like someone showing up at the border, not people already inside the country. And so the Fifth Circuit judges said, that's a really dumb argument. What's going on there, dum-dum? They didn't say that, but that was the tone. Because in plain English and in the law, if you're an applicant for admission, you are seeking admission. There's no magic moment where you stop seeking just because you slipped past inspection and you waited it out because some left-winger who happened to be in the White House at the time said, we're not really interested in pursuing the law. That's what the plain English of the law says. And the court used a really simple analogy. And they talked about this in the context of like applying to a college. You're still seeking admission while your application is pending, even if you're not actually standing in the admissions office every single day waiting for an answer. It's the same thing here. You've put in your application, and now you're waiting for whether or not you've been admitted. And the judges also pointed out something that a lot of critics never seem to want to address, which is that in 1996, the immigration law was rewritten by Congress. And specifically, it was rewritten to end this absurd system where people who entered illegally somehow had more procedural advantages than the people who actually followed the rules. And that was back at a time in which there was some sanity around immigration laws, because a very valid and very reasonable criticism could come from anyone, regardless of political beliefs. Hey, you told me to go and wait in line to get into this country, and you're now allowing people who skip the line to have extra support and protections at my expense. Why is that? How is that fair? And so it wasn't an accident that that was fixed. Congress explicitly said that it didn't make any sense that if you come here illegally, you get some sort of privilege because you were able to evade inspection. That doesn't make any sense. And so the Fifth Circuit's ruling here enforces the intent rather than undermine it. And so critics are screaming that this means mass detention. They'll say that this is unprecedented, that this lacks compassion, it's cruel, it's torture. But notice what they're really upset about. For decades, administrations on both sides of the aisle chose not to fully enforce this law. Choice, not lack of authority. This was a choice. And that was the wrong choice. And so the court made it really clear. Just because in the past, and obviously the most recent past with Joe Biden, that they failed to enforce the law doesn't change what the law actually says. And agencies don't get to rewrite the law through neglect the same way Mexican nationals don't get to rewrite the law because of that neglect. And the part no one wants to really talk about out loud is that when you're released on bond, nearly 90%, according to federal findings, disappear. They don't come back. Detention during removal proceedings isn't punishment. It's basic enforcement of the law. And due process doesn't go away with this. And I understand this is one appeals court, appellate court, that's making this case, and it ultimately probably will get to the Supreme Court. But it doesn't get rid of due process. It doesn't mean you don't get removal hearings. Those still happen. You get in front of a judge. The legal claims that people are making, they still get heard. But what it does is end automatic release, which has turned enforcement into not just a joke, but also just really dangerous. Because these people who end up becoming wanted, some of them are hardened criminals, and you're now sending federal law enforcement into neighborhoods to capture these people. It's a joke. Now, the dissent in this, and there was dissent. I think it was 2 justices on there. They say the border is now everywhere. That's a direct line, which is hysterical. That's hysteria. The bottom line is that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals didn't invent a new power. It simply read the law, the statute as written, and they applied it as it was intended. And they rejected the loophole that rewarded people coming to this country illegally. That's what this is about. And I'm surprised that this story hasn't cut through enough. I've seen a little bit of it online, but that's about it. Meanwhile, the House Oversight Chairman, James Comer, he's launching an investigation into reports that non-citizens have been found on voter rolls in key swing states. And as we know, I mentioned it today, Oregon had this exact same issue. They're just not a swing state. So it's not getting the same level of scrutiny from Republicans. Now, this is not about voting claims. This is just reports tied to official records. And James Comer is out there just simply saying, I'd like some answers. And of course, anytime you even bring up this issue, whether or not on the voter rolls you're getting people who aren't eligible to vote registered, they immediately on the left-wing media outlets, they will all reflexively scream that it's baseless, there's no evidence. So why not just slow down and explain what's happening here if this is not evidence of some sort of fraud? Why not take this as an opportunity to review the details and then explain it away? They won't do that. They'll just call it baseless. And they do that because this is exactly the kind of story that left-wing media loves to minimize because it doesn't make their argument. It hurts their argument. Now, Comer is looking at non-citizens registered to vote in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, amongst others. And, of course, their interest there is that these are states that can determine an election. And we're not talking about states where Trump wins by 20 points or even, states where the Democrat wins by 20 points. We're talking about states where a few thousand votes can flip an entire country. And for everyone who doesn't understand the importance of counting every vote and making sure that every vote that is counted is a legally cast vote, ask Norm Coleman. Remember him? How many, Jackson, did Norm Coleman lose by? Ran for Senate in Minnesota, 350 or something?
Yeah, it was just a handful of votes.
It was a handful of votes. Now, do I think there's mass level fraud going on that's turning presidential elections? No, I haven't seen that kind of evidence. But do I know that fraud does occur? Yeah, we talked about one case today. Well, it's just one case. Okay, well, what if it was just 356 cases? That changes an election. And there have certainly been closer elections, not at the national stage that get a lot of attention, that this stuff does matter. 1-800-465-8770 for your texts. You're listening to The Jason Rantz Show.
If you need security for your event or business, contact Security Services Northwest. From armed and unarmed officers to advanced remote monitoring, they've been doing it all since 1977. Go to ssnwhq.com for Security Services Northwest.
Thanks for calling CM Heating.
Aren't you the company that gives away free furnaces?
That's us. Buy a qualifying high-efficiency cooling system and the furnace is free.
Wow.
Yeah, and our home comfort advisors are tax credit and rebate specialists, so they'll handle the rebate for you.
Go to CM Heating for better comfort, lower bills, and a free furnace you'll love for years. Get your free estimate for furnace replacement at cmheating.com. And remember, for furnaces, fireplaces, hot water, and total home comfort, including electrical,
there's no beating CM Heating.
Remember that time we were driving through France and for some reason we didn't have GPS?
Oh, for some reason? That reason would be that you didn't plug your phone in because you didn't have a charger.
Yeah, because I let you borrow my phone so you could call your mother and you're on the phone for like 30 minutes telling her where we are. But that aside, we didn't know where we were going. We did fight a little bit because we didn't know where we were going. I think that Longevity Medical Clinic is like the GPS for us. They tell us which turns to make. They tell us which directions to go, right?
They do. And now I feel like the two of us together have a clear path and we have more control over our own health care.
Right, exactly. So you don't have to get out of the car and try to find information somewhere. It's all right there. As you're aging, all the little sort of turns you have to make in order to be able to have lots of energy and to enjoy your life. So for as far as I'm concerned, Longevity Medical Clinic is our GPS. Do what Nick and I have done. Take a free health analysis at lmclinic.com. That's lmclinic.com.
Hey, it's Jason Rantz. Winter weather means slick roads, darker mornings, and more accidents across Western Washington. If you or someone you care about ends up on the side of the road after a crash, safety comes first. Get out of harm's way, exchange information, and make sure a police report is filed. But then make the most important call you can make. Harold Car Law Offices. That one call can save you time, frustration, and a whole lot of money. After an accident, your job is to heal and get back to your life, your family, your work. It's not to sit on hold with insurance companies or chase paperwork or argue over medical bills. That's what Harold Law Offices does for you. Their 48-person legal team handles the insurance companies, fights for the full value of your claim, and takes the stress off of your plate. They don't get paid unless you do. If you've been in a car accident this winter, remember the name you can trust. Harold Car Law Offices. Car is spelled C-A-R-R. They're online at carlaw.com. C-A-R-R. Carlaw.com. Car accident? Call CAR. and tell them Jason Rantz sent you. carlaw.com.
For seniors, the new year is a good time to reassess finances. If you're struggling with bills, our friend Steve Teitler of Best Mortgage says a reverse mortgage may be a great way to ease your stress.
Seniors tell me all the time, we love our home, we'd love to stay here, but we just can't afford it anymore. A reverse mortgage lets you tap your home equity for tax-free cash to pay off your mortgage, pay off your debts, and maybe put some extra money in the bank. You've worked hard for that home equity. Now let your home work for you. And best of all, you'll have no mortgage payments the rest of your life.
And you always talk to a real person, not an AI robot.
That's right. You'll get a no-pressure consultation directly from me. Never a sales pitch and never an AI bot.
Honest advice you can trust from Best Mortgage, the reverse mortgage experts, the VA loan and debt consolidation experts too. 425-649-6000. Best Mortgage, 425-649-6000.
For over 50 years, Bucky's Complete Auto Repair has been the one locals trust for fast, friendly service with guaranteed repairs. With 16 family-owned locations and a Carfax preferred badge, Bucky's makes it easy with same-day service and available financing. Visit buckys.com.
File now with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They'll find every credit and deduction or your money back. File today the easy way in the Credit Karma app.
Seattle Red on 770 KTTH Seattle, 97.3 KIRO FM, HD3 Tacoma Seattle, 94.5 K233 DT Eastlake, 33 BU Seattle.
The search intensifies. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. After the FBI released video doorbell footage of a potential suspect in the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. The suspect seen wearing a ski mask and backpack and trying to use plants on the porch of her home to block the camera. The video release generating more tips.
Anywhere from 12 to 20 FBI agents that went into Annie Guthrie's neighborhood, canvassing the place, not to Annie Guthrie's house, but to other homes. They were knocking on doors, asking neighbors about their Ring cameras, and then going around talking to different neighbors, showing them pictures, as well as going into the backyard of one of the neighbors and kind of going through some of the shrubbery and the brush, looking for what? We have no idea.
Fox's Trace Gallagher in Tucson. The 84-year-old mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie has been missing for 10 days. The family has said she needs daily medication to survive. They have responded to ransom notes saying they are willing to pay for her return. A sometimes heated House hearing over immigration enforcement operations, including officers wearing masks during arrests. Acting ICE Chief Todd Lyons telling lawmakers the masks are needed for officer safety. It's coming as lawmakers are trying to come up with a compromise to fund the Department of Homeland Security before a Friday deadline. The FBI looking into the 2020 vote count in Georgia.
President Trump lost Georgia in 2020, but along with political supporters, his long made unsubstantiated claims of fraud. A federal judge unsealed the application the FBI made to obtain a warrant in search of the election center earlier this year. The FBI seized hundreds of boxes of ballots. The affidavit cites two federal laws potentially violated, one requiring preservation of election records and another depriving residents of a fair and impartial election process.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. America's listening to Fox News.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
It was a mixed finish for the major averages, but the Dow did post its seventh record close of the year. Investors are cautious as they await the delayed January jobs report, which will be released on Wednesday morning. The Dow up 52 points, the Nasdaq lower by 136, S&P 500 down 23. And shoppers unexpectedly paused their spending at the end of the year, closing out the holiday shopping season and year on a lackluster note. With retail sales coming in flat in December, economists were expecting a modest increase. And Robinhood Markets' fourth quarter earnings beat Wall Street estimates but missed on revenue due to lower cryptocurrency-related revenue. The company's earnings report lands after a tough trading session for wealth management and brokerage stocks, which got hammered on concerns about threats posed by artificial intelligence. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. After my husband died, the last thing I wanted to think about was money. Ethos made it affordable to get life insurance. Signing up was fast and 100% online. I knew that I could pay our mortgage and have food in the fridge. I could focus on my kids. No one ever tells you how much you're going to depend on that policy. I am so grateful we had coverage.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/save. That's ethos.com/save. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on.
Oh, Jesus. The yellow light! I'm walking here! I'm walking!
Good afternoon and welcome to the Jason Rantz Show. We are here on Seattle Red 770 AM, recording here in New York as I am in town for CNN, which means I get to yell at liberals tonight. We got a lot planned this hour of the show. We'll get into SCOTUS, Supreme Court, finally coming to the rescue when it comes to trans athlete bans. One law in Idaho being discussed today, but this is really about what's going to happen nationwide. But before then, we are day 2 of the legislative session in Washington state. And of course, Democrats are up to their shenanigans. That's what's trending. Brought to you by Legacy Group Capital, Common Sense Lending.
What's trending? Let's get political.
Washington Democrats are advancing a bill that local media is going to take the bait on. And I really, really hope that they don't, although I fear that they will. This is a bill that would limit when law enforcement can cover their faces while they're on the job. And the intent behind this bill, as the state senator Javier Valdez, the Democrat from Seattle, pointed out, was drafted because of the ICE enforcement that he and other Democrats are completely against.
Seeing law enforcement officers throughout the country bringing intimidation tactics and causing fear in neighborhoods, in our families, and our communities.
It's intimidation tactic. I mean, I'm intimidated. I know Jackson earlier today, when he got into the office, he sent me a text. He was a little bit late, and you were just in tears, it sounded like. Just like, I can't. I'm just so intimidated by the idea of law enforcement. That's where, because they're coming. First, they go after the immigrants, and then they come after us, which, of course, is not going to happen. The problem, of course, with this bill is that it is, can we call this, Jackson, a kind of a fake bill? Like, it's a real bill, but it does absolutely nothing when it comes to federal law enforcement. Do we all understand why? I know not everyone has taken a Constitutional 101 course, but you know the basic concept here, right?
It's a virtue signal bill, yeah.
It's a virtue, but why is this useless from a federal standpoint?
The supremacy clause.
Okay, supremacy clause. And it's kind of in the name of the clause, supremacy. What does that mean? Who's supreme?
The federal law supersedes state law.
100% of the time. That's always going to be the case. And so they're pushing this as if it's going to do anything. And I saw some, memes on Reddit being posted by left-wingers, like, unmask ICE. This does not unmask anything. This doesn't unmask anything. In fact, all you have to do is go to California, which passed the exact same law, but it's gone absolutely nowhere because the locals have zero impact whatsoever on whether or not you're going to be able to force federal law enforcement from taking off their masks. This is a made-up issue. It is a made-up issue. And media is going to push this as if it has any chance in the world of not just it's going to pass, but actually being implemented. It's not going to be implemented. But what will happen is after they pass this bill and they see an ICE agent in a mask, they're going to say this is another example of the Trump administration violating the law. This is a lawless Gestapo or a lawless gazpacho. That's how they'll present it. And they'll use it, again, as a means to attack the Trump administration and smear federal law enforcement agencies, even though they know that this is very clearly unconstitutional. U.S. Attorney Pete Serrano, he made that point earlier to our sister station. But, I mean, the reality is you don't need to even go to a Republican U.S. attorney to know this. We know exactly what's going on here. But again, the media is going to play into this game. They're going to pretend otherwise. Now, at the same time, an issue that I think they ought to pay attention to, they're almost going to completely ignore and not amplify the messages on or point out that Democrats are acting clearly, again, unconstitutionally. We told you yesterday of the two initiatives that got enough signatures to be considered by the state legislature before they get onto the ballot in November. One having to do with bringing back parental Bill of Rights, which the Democrats gutted. The other one having to do specifically with banning trans athletes, which big Supreme Court case, or two cases today were heard. We'll get into that in a second. But according to the state constitution, the legislature has to take them up and treat them with the highest of importance. But what did they say instead? Oh, we're just going to completely ignore it. We're not going to look at it. We're not going to debate it. We're not going to vote on it. We're going to ignore what the Washington State Supreme Court says, and we're just going to put it on the ballot. Now, yesterday, as I pointed out, the reason why they're going to do that is because it gives them 11 months, essentially, hoping that you forget about this issue, so no momentum. 11 months raising more money so that they can outspend the initiative supporters and flat out lie to you about what's in it. And, of course, 11 months where they continue the status quo. Now, ultimately, at least for one of the initiatives, it might be moot. In fact, it will likely be moot in just a few months when we get the Supreme Court decision on trans athlete bans. But the reality is, this is all intentional, but it's unconstitutional, which is why the Citizen Action Defense Fund, the CADF, also known as KEDF, they're calling out the legislature and the Democrats for refusing to hold these hearings. And they're pointing out that nearly 500,000 Washingtonians signed the petitions. And they're not supposed to just ghost them. They're required to either pass them as they're written, reject them as they're written, or simply send them to the voters. That's it. That is the process that they're supposed to follow. And yet they are choosing to ignore that process because there are no consequences here other than maybe getting called out. But getting called out is not the same as meaningful consequences, legally speaking, or political consequences. And there won't be any political consequences. They do whatever it is they want. Voters followed the rules, but the legislature is refusing to do exactly the same thing. And it's not some technical oversight. It's not some scheduling conflict. They've openly said they have no intention of holding hearings, no votes, no debate, which would bring a giant spotlight to this. And again, debating this issue and having them go on the record on something that is so wildly popular, regardless of one's political position, they don't have a spotlight highlighting their debate against the will of the people. That's another big piece of this. The Constitution didn't change. The arrogance coming from the legislature changed. Jim Walsh has an op-ed today at Seattle Red on the arrogance coming from this administration and from this leadership. And so the Citizen Action Defense Fund over at seattlered.com, they're demanding some kind of accountability. But again, I don't think we're going to see anything. This is all just a giant scam. And it's on us, frankly, to speak up and push back and demand some change. 1-800-465-8770 for your texts. Let's find out what else is trending.
What's trending? The sports ball.
Well, kudos to the Seattle Seahawks. They got their bye week. They're now in playoff territory officially, headed to Lumen Field. They're hosting the 49ers. Do we really need, Jackson, the same game that we ended the season with?
Just the way it shook it. This is how it shakes out.
But I don't know. This one doesn't seem all that interesting to me. Is it fair to say that the Seahawks are the favorite?
Yeah, I think in Vegas the spread is they're favored by 7.5 points, so a touchdown.
And I know what a touchdown is.
Well, maybe other people don't. I don't know.
Who doesn't know that? And first of all, it's not a touchdown technically, right? It's a touchdown and a field goal. Dummy.
A touchdown and an extra point, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm just
plus
saying.
Half a point.
And half a point. I always love it. How do they figure out the half point part? That I don't understand. How do you cover the spread when there's a half?
Well, that's the thing is it's if it was only 7, you'd be like, oh, I could see them, winning by a touchdown. Then worst case, I push, I get my money back if it's exactly 7. But if it has to be more than a touchdown, that makes it harder,
Yeah, okay. Well, in any case, they're playing the 49ers without Kittle, whose leg fell off or something.
Tore his ACL.
Yeah, same thing. So he's out, which he's always been a problem for the Seahawks. And I find, again, I'm totally a bandwagon fan. Although I watched almost every single game this season. I listened to one. I actually listened to the San Francisco 49ers game when the Seahawks won, cementing their bye week. But they're going into this, and I thought this was kind of interesting to me. I saw this all over the place, and people were sharing an email that they got as a season ticket holder. They were warned not to resell their playoff tickets, and if they do, it could jeopardize whether or not they're going to be able in the next season to keep their eligibility for those season tickets. The warning, King 5 says, comes as playoff energy builds in Seattle after the heated rivalry match. The policy said, hey, we don't want this in place, or fans said of the policy, we don't want this in place, people selling their tickets, because it could impact how many 49ers fans are actually in the stadium. One season ticket holder named Jeff, speaking to King 5, says this is a good policy.
And then we have a firm policy in our group that nobody sells their tickets to, non-Seahawks fans. If they determine that your tickets were primarily used for resale, I think that's the tipping point. No pun intended with Seahawks, but I'm glad they're finally ruffling some feathers. Yeah. I mean, you go there for a collective experience. And yeah, it's fun sparring with fans from other teams and things like that in a fun way, but it's way more fun high-fiving, a Seahawks fan when something fantastic happens. Take a step back and really look at the history of things. It's like we're living in wonderful times right now, and hopefully more wonderful after Saturday.
Oh, shut up. Fans are the worst. So here's what I don't understand about this. What if you can't go to the playoff game? You're out of town. And let's say I'm a Seahawks ticket holder. I couldn't sell them to you? You're a Seahawks fan.
Well, maybe you could do it under the table, maybe, and then they would have no way of knowing.
I guess, but
just give it
why
to
are
a
they
friend
just
and be like,
I get their point of going on to third-party tickets, but why are we just assuming it's going to be a 49ers fan who purchases the tickets? Wouldn't it be just as likely, if not more likely, since it's at Lumen Field, that someone who's a Seahawks fan would purchase?
I don't know. Third party, I feel like for example, in the first game of the season when the Niners were here, there was tons of Niner fans. So presumably that's how they got their tickets, was off third-party sites.
I'm not saying they're not going to get their ticket, but it seems like it's fair to say that there are more Seahawks fans who are likely to purchase a ticket to a playoff game in Seattle than a 49er fan who will purchase tickets and fly here.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, so that's what I guess I don't understand why we are just making this assumption. Couldn't you, and I don't know, Seahawks couldn't do this, but can't we just work with third-party vendors and be like, we're only selling to zip codes that originate in Washington State? It's just, what are you supposed to do if you don't, what if you're a lonely person who doesn't have any friends and you can't go? Wouldn't you rather have someone in those seats?
Maybe you would, but they don't want any Niners fans there.
No, it's not a guarantee, is my point, that it's just 49er fans. Are you going?
No, I'm not going.
Why? Because you can't find tickets on the third-party sites.
And it's very expensive.
So you're independently wealthy. I saw the ring you got your fiance. You can afford it.
I haven't been to a Seahawks game in years, actually. I go to more Husky football games than NFL games. But
can I say, because I've been to, the only times I've ever been to a Seahawks game is obviously when I'm in the suite, because our sister station is the home of the Seahawks. And even there, I don't like going to Seahawks games. It's too loud. It's one of the big perks for the Seahawks is having this stadium that was built to be very loud, and it's distracting for the opposing team. But I am hypersensitive to sounds. I have hyperacusis, and it's very difficult for me, not even just to pay attention. It physically hurts to be at Lumen Field. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Versus going to a Mariners game, and while it can obviously get loud, it's not sustained over the course of a 2-3 hour game.
Yeah, it's just,
or a 7-hour game for baseball.
Pockets of loudness, but not the whole time.
Exactly. I can't do it. I much prefer, and just kind of like soccer, I prefer watching it on a TV than being there. Unless, ironically, if I'm at Lumen Field for a soccer game, I want the nosebleed seats, because you can see the entire pitch or field. And you can see how the game strategy is unfolding versus it doesn't totally make a difference if you're there for a football game. Although I feel like still the higher up you are, the better.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Mm-hmm. And yet baseball, I don't think you need to be high up. I think you can have really, quote unquote, good seats. But I don't feel that way with Seattle, with football or soccer.
Mm-hmm. And I find myself becoming more and more of like an old curmudgeon because, like, as you say, baseball games, one thing I love about them is how it's so easy to like socialize with people and it's just kind of chill. But like if I'm at a football game or like a Kraken game or something and on the Jumbotron, they're like, get loud. I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah, it's like, no, can you quiet down? You've been loud this whole time. And can everyone sit down for a minute? My feet hurt. I don't like this anymore. And I'm not going to spend, not that I'd ever eat a hot dog, but $14 on a hot dog.
Uh-huh.
It's too much.
That's one of the most annoying things about Mariner playoff games, actually, is like, I get why people do it, but like people during playoff baseball, people stand the entire time.
The whole game. It's like going to a concert with chairs and everyone's standing. Like, but we got seats. Why are we standing?
It's like we're not even batting, and it's like a 1-0 count in the third inning. Like, why are we getting on our feet?
Yeah, it's too much. I'm kind of with you. And especially, it feels like it's going to be worse for playoff games. Wouldn't you rather just watch it or listen to it than be there?
I think, especially nowadays with surround sound and 4K TV, and you can just sit on your couch. I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, I'm definitely not spending. Well, it doesn't matter. There was at no point was I even considering going to the game. Let's find out what else is trending.
What's trending international?
We appear to be one step closer, potentially getting more involved, militarily involved in Iran. President Trump earlier today told the people of Iran to, quote unquote, take over the institutions. He's canceled all meetings with the Iranian regime over the crackdown on the protests. This announcement was on his Truth Social, saying Iranian patriots keep protesting, take over your institutions, save the names of the killers and the abusers. They will pay a big price. And he says, I've canceled all meetings with Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stop. Help is on the way. Now, the question is, what does that help actually look like? Will it be more traditional military involvement? Probably not, although Senator John Fetterman, who, as I will remind everyone, appears to be the only sane voice on the left in the Senate, says he would support some kind of kinetic action in Iran. He was on CNN.
Do you want the U.S. to get involved like that?
Sure, absolutely. And now if it continues to make more sense, absolutely. I think I was the only Democrat that fully supported our strike of their Iranian nuclear facilities last year. And now, by then, without those kinds of strikes, Iran could have acquired a nuclear bomb. I hope we can all agree that Iran should have never acquired a nuclear bomb. And Iran is one of the world's top terrorist unwriter. And now you have that poisonous regime now in spiral. So why wouldn't we want to support that? And those brave protesters, they've killed probably more than 600 by now. So now, why would we want to have the kinds of targeted kinds of action that could break that regime?
It seems pretty obvious that we're not going to have boots on the ground. We might get involved with airstrikes to, strategic locations having to do with their military infrastructure. I bet, and not because I have any special intel, obviously, on this, but I'm hearing a lot of people talking about the prospect of cyber chaos that we can create by hacking their system, infiltrating their systems. And perhaps that's what we end up doing, that this is more of a digital warfare kind of bit to stop this regime from killing all of these innocent Iranians. To me, what's been really interesting about this is that, folks on the left who previously complained that the Trump administration hadn't done enough to deal with bad actors like Iran, and that we were leaning into this kind of isolationist position. And, in fairness, I think some people falsely portray America First as isolationist in general. America First is not isolationist. It means anything that we're doing is to the advantage of the American people. That does not mean that we never get involved in anything foreign. And you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's the dumbest of dumb, she seemed to think that, and that's in part how she broke up with the Trump administration. I mean, specifically dealing with Israel, because she's an anti-Semite. But, so I thought we said no to foreign wars. This is starting a foreign. This is not a foreign war. What we're seeing are revolutionaries, the people of Iran, pushing back in a meaningful way. And if we can help them, isn't it in our best interest for a weakened Iranian regime, especially if it means they might become a more democratic region? Because it's not just about Iran. This would send shockwaves into the Middle East. You know, we've made this before on the show that the Iranian people are not the enemy. They are very much, for the most part, aligned with Western culture and Western ideals. Not completely, right? But they are considerably aligned, or more considerably aligned than, say, Palestinians in Gaza, right? They are very much over there, not a fan of Western culture. But the Iranian people and the American people have a lot in common and a lot of respect for one another. It's the Iranian regime which has used a tremendous amount of violence to subjugate the people. So it's in our best interest to have, a flourishing and non-threatening Iran in that region, which the threat that they offer is just destabilizing in that region. So whatever it is we're doing, you would expect, I think, Democrats would at least privately support what the Trump administration is talking about here. But of course, they can't talk about it publicly because everyone is broken by Trump. It was funny yesterday on, I think it was Air Force One, the president got a question from CNN about whether or not President Trump, threatening any kind of action in Iran would be taken seriously, which is frankly an odd question.
I think Iran takes your threats seriously.
I think so. Don't you think so, CNN? Don't you think so? Wouldn't you say that they probably do at this point? After going through it for years with me, being hit, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, the Iran nuclear threat wiped out, don't you think, and then you just had Venezuela, don't you think, she says, CNN, do you think they take your threat seriously? Wouldn't you say they do after all of the things we've done? What a stupid question.
Yeah, and I don't even understand. Do we know what the point of that question was? Did she mean it in a different way?
I have no idea.
Right? It seemed like, well, why would they take you seriously, rather than a more objective, will they take you seriously? At least that's how I read the tone. So I'm kind of with the president on that one of like, why are you asking such a dumb question? It doesn't really make any sense. 1-800-465-8770 for your text messages. Remember 2020 when everything was shut down, the world was locked down, you weren't driving anywhere, and because you didn't get regular maintenance, skipping the oil change might have wrecked your vehicle's warranty. So the Sunset Auto family is offering absolutely free warranty health checks. And if they find that your coverage is shaky, they can get you out of that car and into something better with warranty protection for life. SunsetAutoFamily.com. Sunset Auto Family in Auburn and Sumner. Just bring your vehicle down. When we come back, a monumental case is going to be decided on trans athletes in competition. It seems pretty clear where the justices are going. We'll have some of the analysis and great audio from today's hearing when we return on the Jason Rantz Show from the Fox News studios in New York.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter. I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. You know, the big wireless companies say they have discounts for people over 55. But unless you're willing to sit on hold and ask, you're probably paying more than you should. At Consumer Cellular, there's nothing to hunt down. We're built for people 50 plus with plans starting at just $20. And our 100% US-based customer service actually answers the phone. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today and get your second month free for a limited time.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. You know, the big wireless companies say they have discounts for people over 55. But unless you're willing to sit on hold and ask, you're probably paying more than you should. At Consumer Cellular, there's nothing to hunt down. We're built for people 50 plus with plans starting at just $20. And our 100% US-based customer service actually answers the phone. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today and get your second month free for a limited time.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
With the new IHOP value menu, $6 is all it takes to go to your happy place, where stacks of pancakes with bacon and eggs are just $6 every day. French toast, sausage, and eggs are, you guessed it, $6. And fluffy omelets come with a side of pancakes and only cost $6. Go to your happy plates every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
Let's talk about your hair. Well, maybe after we talk about my hair. I've got great hair, as you know, and it's because of Advanced Hair. Yep, Advanced Hair Restoration. Their simple one-day treatment offers life-changing results that I can attest to. Guys, it's not magic, but it's close to it. They put hair where you need it most, and bam, it grows. It's actual science. Advanced Hair has top-rated physicians, modern technology, and best of all, you get your very own natural hair that begins to regrow the very next day. It's even guaranteed to grow for life. So schedule your free consultation now at 425-449-8185. Mention Curly to qualify for $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. It's a limited time offer. Advanced Hair, the winner of the 425 Business of the Year, and the team that gave me my hair back. More importantly, they'll do the same for you, guaranteed. 425-449-8185 or advancedhair.com.
Why'd I go to the doctor? Working on the farm, my heart kept skipping a beat. I didn't think much of it, but my daughters made me get checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
There's no championship league for small business owners. But if there was, you'd be at the top of the standings. Because going pro with Lenovo Pro means you've got the winning formation, one-on-one advice, IT solutions, and customized hardware powered by Intel Core Ultra processors help you stay ahead of the competition. Business goes pro with Lenovo Pro. Sign up for free at lenovo.com/pro.
Lenovo.
Welcome back to the Jason Rantz Show, broadcasting from the Fox News studios out of New York. I'm in town, somewhat ironically, I suppose, for CNN. And an issue that we'll be debating tonight at 7 p.m. our time is today's SCOTUS hearing, SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States. And let's, from the get-go here, be clear about what's going on. This is a debate not about hate, not about bigotry, as folks on the left who scream the loudest want to define this as. This has never been about hate or about fear. And it's frankly never been about denying anyone dignity or erasing trans people. This is just about fairness. And frankly, it's about fairness for girls. Girls, those groups of people that we used to be able to define honestly until the left decided to lean into the wokeness. Earlier today, the Supreme Court was asked to weigh the legal arguments about whether or not states can ban biological males or trans girls from competing in girls' sports. And the fact that this even needs to be litigated tells you how far off the rails this entire conversation has gone. We have the existence of girls' sports for a reason. It was never meant to be a political statement or a social experiment. They exist because biological differences between boys and girls or men and women, it's real, it's measurable, And it's decisive, especially when we're talking about competitive athletics, where you're talking about people at their peak performance. Every once in a while, you'll get one of those really, truly bad and disingenuous arguments. Like if I'm out there saying, yeah, we should be banning this from occurring, it's not fair. An athlete will say, or someone on the other side will say, well, a female athlete can beat you at anything. Like, yeah, you can. I'm not an athlete. Of course they can beat me. We're not talking about me competing against a top female athlete. Although I suppose, depending on what it is we're talking about, I might be stronger. Not Jackson, not you though. You're weak upper body. You have the upper body strength of a vegan.
Which is so weird because I'm not a vegan.
I know it is. It's very, but you got to up your protein. But none of this is really about ideology as much as it is about biology or physiology. We know that as a matter of fact, and again, you don't need to be a scientist, as Jamie Peterson, the state senator from Washington, wants us to pretend. You don't have to be a scientist to understand this. Males have inherent advantages because of muscle mass, bone density, lung capacity, strength, and that's not erased because someone changes the way they identify or because of some hormone treatments that they're on. You can argue about policy. I think that that's fair, but you can't argue with the biology without looking like you're just flat out lying or you're just, stupid. And yet for years, that's exactly what the activists and the lawmakers have demanded everyone do. And it's always interesting when you hear the justices on the left try to talk through all of these issues. It seems clear that they're just ignorant on the issues. And it was speaking of ignorant on the issues, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who didn't quite understand why a state would have to have tailored laws around things like trans issues.
I'm still struggling to understand why.
And by the way, she says this every single time. It's, how some people just say a lot, like this is or like. That's Ketanji Brown Jackson's like or She says, I'm struggling to understand. I don't understand.
To understand why the state would have to have perfectly tailored laws. I would think the state would just have to make exceptions where people can demonstrate that the justification that makes the state's conduct constitutional doesn't apply to them.
Right. So making exceptions is tailoring your law. That's literally what it means to tailor.
No, but
I love that. And this is the justice. Is this Hashim Mupan?
Yep.
I just love it. It's like, it's literally what you just said. It's literally what it is they're doing.
Yes, from the standpoint of a facial challenge, when we're asking whether this law has to be stricken completely because it isn't, perfectly tailored. What we're doing is a different exercise in the as-applied challenge. We're asking whether, even though this law is overbroad, we're assuming it's overbroad now because you've got in there some people to whom it should not be applied. What do we do about that? What is the remedy that those people can get? And what I hear you saying is they get no remedy unless they can demonstrate that there are enough people that this is sufficiently overbroad that it's no longer something the state can do.
Right.
And I don't understand why that is. Why wouldn't, when we identify people for whom this law operates unconstitutionally, that's the premise, because now I'm in remedy, right? The premise is that you have a person who's successfully made an as-applied challenge. This, to me, unconstitutional. You say, too bad, unless you can show that it's also unconstitutional with respect to a sizable number of other people. And I don't understand why that's the case.
Oh my God, she never really understands. So let's hear the legal response to that, because I find this stuff fascinating.
Because I don't agree with the premise that the law operates unconstitutionally as to an individual person just because it doesn't. The justification for the law doesn't apply to that person. That's what this court held in both Wynn and Michael M. It recognized that the justification that was put forward for the law might not be true for each and every person the law applied to, but this court said that's fine.
And if we read Caban and Lair to say something different, if I disagree with you, then we just...
Well, Wynn is the most recent of the cases. So even if you read the cases that way, and Wynn is explicit about this. Wynn explicitly says, I believe it's... I'm not going to get the page number right, but Wynn explicitly says that we recognize that there are some men who were present at the birth of their child, who have a DNA test to prove that they were the father, that have been with their kids their entire life. In fact, that was probably true of Wynn's father.
It's just so silly. And of course, the topic of What a Woman Is came up, and Justice Sam Alito was pressing the attorney on the anti-ban side, Kathleen Hartnett, to describe what a woman is.
Do you agree that a school may have separate teams for a category of students classified as boys and a category of students classified as girls?
Yes, Your Honor.
If it does that, then is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition for equal protection purposes? What does it mean to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was just understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court. And we don't take issue with we're not disputing the definition here. What we're saying is that the way it applies in practice is to exclude birth-sex males categorically from women's teams, and that there's a subset of those birth-sex males where it doesn't make sense to do so according to the state's own interest.
Well, how can a court determine whether there's discrimination on the basis of sex without knowing what sex means for equal protection purposes?
I think here we just know that we basically know that that they've identified pursuant to their own statute, Lindsay qualifies as a birth-sex male, and she's being excluded categorically from the women's teams as the statute. So we're taking the statute's definitions as we find them, and we don't dispute them. We're just trying to figure out, do they create an equal protection problem?
And it was at that point that Alito just completely nuked the argument that was coming from the anti-ban side.
Suppose this school that has a boys, let's say, track team and a girls track team. The school has that. And a student who has the genes and the reproductive system of a male and had those at birth and has never taken puberty blockers, never taken female hormones, never had any gender altering or affirming surgery, says, nevertheless, I am a woman. That's who I am. Can the school say, no, you cannot participate on the girls' team?
So you're just a birth-sex male who has all the advantages of birth-sex male hormones, and can the school borrow him from the women's team? Yes, they can.
But that person, is that person not a woman in your understanding? If the person says, I sincerely believe I am a woman, I am in fact a woman. Is that person not a woman?
I would respect their self-identity in addressing the person, but in terms of the statute, I think the question is, does that person have a sex-based biological advantage that's going to make it unfair for that person to be part of the women's team? And that's the rationale for the regulation, and so that's the way we would be testing that hypothetical.
Well, the reason I'm asking has to do with discrimination on the basis of transgender status. So what you seem to be saying is, yes, it is permissible for the school to discriminate on the basis of transgender status, because if this person is a trans woman, a trans girl, and is barred from the team, from the girls' team, then that person is being subjected to differential treatment based on transgender status, right?
That did not go well for her. And it seemed pretty obvious. And I know, Jackson, you were paying close attention to this today as well. I mean, it's pretty clear that this is going to be another one of those block decisions where all the conservatives are going to go one way, the majority, and then all the liberals are going to go the other way. There were two people kind of to watch. One was Chief Justice John Roberts, who I think his first question out the gate made it clear where he stood. Neil Gorsuch is the only other person to watch because he's gone both ways on this, pardon the pun, on this particular. It was not intended to. I heard that snicker. He's gone both issues on this, or both sides of the issue. But it seemed pretty clear the conservatives are going to side with states giving them the right to ban trans athletes from competing.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just so preposterous. Like, how could they not? I mean,
Well, well, how can they not? You can listen to the really bad arguments coming from Kagan, Sotomayor, and Brown-Jackson, and they really were bad. And, on MS Now, their legal reporter, Lisa Rubin, she acted in such bad faith with one of her arguments, framing this entire debate. And, on the one hand, she's right when she says you can't really separate out the politics of this, but it's not because of what the conservatives did. But listen to what she said.
Well, you'd hope that the politics are out of the courtroom. And I will say, our producers have noticed a protest outside the court today that is larger than anything else that they've seen this year. So
it's unbelievable. The 13 days of which they've only been in session for 2, the largest protest we've ever seen. I mean, I was shocked by how many protesters were there in the 13 days and really 2 days of the session.
Politics around this, you're correct to observe, are quite large. With respect to what comes in the courtroom, I don't know how you can disaggregate the politics from this legal issue. The very fact that we're talking about the difference between biological males and cisgender males is...
Was that a mistake?
Yeah, wait a minute.
There is no difference, Lisa, between biological males and quote-unquote cisgendered males. They're just males. That's the thing here.
It's been foisted upon us by a campaign of fear being driven by the right against some women who want to participate in women's sports.
No. Against men who want to participate in women's sport. That's what, again, she's intentionally framing this as if trans women are women because that's a bumper sticker talking point, but they're not.
One of the plaintiffs here, Becky Pepper Jackson, she was the plaintiff and is now the respondent in the West Virginia case. She transitioned when she was in 3rd grade, has never...
No. Oh, my God. That's your argument? How old is a 3rd grader?
Like 8.
Yeah. Okay. She didn't transition anything. He had abusive parents.
Undergone the kind of puberty that a biological male would necessarily go through. And so her argument is, to Leah's point, sort of some men but not all men, she says that from a biological standpoint, she is indistinguishable from other women.
But that's just not true. There's no such thing as indistinguishable from other women when we're talking about biology.
And so to foist upon her the expectations that we have of most biological men is simply unfair and unconstitutional as to her.
I'm also, it's funny because she says as to her, but Lisa's point and the point of everybody on MS Now is not even to make the distinction she's trying to make here, right? I mean, the whole point here is to do the opposite, is to treat every single quote-unquote trans person as if they're actually the biology in which they identify. It's just absolute lunacy. 1-800-465-8770 for your text messages. 1-800-465-8770 if you want to join the show and weigh in. I'm broadcasting from the Fox News studios in New York on this Tuesday afternoon. I'll be debating this very issue tonight on CNN at 7 o'clock on Abby Phillip News Night. I don't know who the panel's going to be. Oh, God. I'm going to get in trouble, aren't I? I can already see it. How long before I get called a bigot tonight once this story is introduced?
I'd say over-unders 90 seconds.
Right? Should I play the gay card? Because the chances are any liberal on that panel will not know who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting for the moment where, like, listen, it's just one thing for all of us to say as cisgendered heterosexuals. I'm just waiting for that moment. We're going to get into some more controversies when we come back. You're listening to The Jason Rantz Show.
I remember brushing my hair and looking down and thinking, oh my gosh, do I have any hair left?
I used to look at women with thick, beautiful hair and think, why doesn't my hair look like that?
My thinning hair is making me feel so old.
If you want thick, healthy, gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. With clinically proven ingredients like apple extract, biotin, and millet, Hair Volume nourishes your hair follicles to promote thicker, healthier-looking hair. Say goodbye to shedding, thin, and dull hair, and hello to thick, healthy hair with Hair Volume.
Since taking Hair Volume, the shedding has all but stopped.
Now, instead of being jealous of other women's hair, I have friends who are jealous of mine.
My hairdresser couldn't believe the difference in my hair. Now she's using Hair Volume too.
Available as a tablet or delicious gummy, Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com, or find Hair Volume in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Hey, this is Pete from Home Matters. Tune in this weekend when we'll talk with local business owners about everything in and around your home. Join us on Saturdays from 2 to 3 right here on Seattle Red, or listen to the podcast on mynorthwest.com.
For seniors, the new year is a good time to reassess finances.
If you're struggling with bills, our friend Steve Teitler of Best Mortgage says a reverse mortgage may be a great way to ease your stress.
Seniors tell me all the time, we love our home, we'd love to stay here, but we just can't afford it anymore. A reverse mortgage lets you tap your home equity for tax-free cash to pay off your mortgage, pay off your debts, and maybe put some extra money in the bank. You've worked hard for that home equity. Now let your home work for you. And best of all, you'll have no mortgage payments the rest of your life.
And you always talk to a real person, not an AI robot.
That's right. You'll get a no-pressure consultation directly from me. Never a sales pitch and never an AI bot.
Honest advice you can trust from Best Mortgage, the reverse mortgage experts, the VA loan and debt consolidation experts too. 425-649-6000. Best Mortgage, 425-649-6000.
Hey, it's Jason Rantz. If you're stacking silver and gold, you already know the problem. When prices surged up around 200% this past year, your stack becomes a target. One break-in or house fire can wipe out years of hard work. That's why people call Northwest Safe, your local Liberty Safe dealer. Whether it's over the phone or in person, their expert sales staff will help guide you to the right safe to protect your valuables. Protect your metals, protect your peace of mind. Call 1-888-404-SAFE or visit nwsafe.com.
For over 50 years, Bucky's Complete Auto Repair has been the one locals trust for fast, friendly service with guaranteed repairs. With 16 family-owned locations and a Carfax preferred badge, Bucky's makes it easy with same-day service and available financing. Visit buckys.com.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter.
Welcome back to the Jason Rantz Show here in New York as I'm on the road for some debates with liberals on CNN. And I have to say, we'll get to the news in a moment, but I had a maybe an hour's worth of glee in travel. Travel is not great, especially to the East Coast. It's such a long flight. The good news coming to New York from Seattle, and I flew into JFK, is that it's usually, because of the wind, like 4.5 hours at the most, unless there's some delay. Coming back to Seattle is the worst. It's like 6 hours. It's just it is brutal. But the one thing I look forward to on these long flights is probably what everyone looks forward to when they take a flight and they look at their seat map and they realize they have the entire row to themselves. And going into the flight, like a day before the flight, it showed that there was no one seated between me and someone who was seated at the window. I'm an aisle guy because I always have to pee when I'm told that if you're in a position where you might have to ask someone to move, you're going to have to pee like 50 times. It's just
I'm the same way.
All right. It's the worst. And look, I drink a lot of water and Coke Zero, so I always have to actually go. So I was praying that no one would get that minute. Yesterday, I get to the airport and I checked every single seat map. Showed that the person who had previously been assigned to the window seat left. I had the entire row to myself, Jackson. The entire row to myself. And then I started to get nervous. I was looking at the flight and I was trying to figure out, because I was in an area that usually gets an upgrade for people if they're in the Jackson seats, I refer to them as, the poor people seats. And then I started to check every 10 minutes to see if someone else was going to be put in that row. But you know what happens right before they let everyone in? They close out the seat assignments so you can't see the map anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I get on wondering if they will move someone to some of those open seats. Because worst case scenario is that they fill both seats. Mid-case scenario is that one person is there. And I was going through before they shut down the seat assignments, and this would have been risky. But I was thinking to myself, do I pick the middle seat? Should I take, right? And the chances are, I'm presuming, less likely that someone's going to want to sit next to me. Do I take the middle seat? Because if you're out there and you're looking for a seat, you'll take a seat that has an empty spot between.
Yeah, you want the buffer zone.
Yeah, you'll take the buffer, but you won't want to sit right next to someone. I decided not to do that. So I get to my seat. It's the only row that had all of the armrests up. And I assumed that that was good news, that the flight crew looked at this and they said, hey, whoever's going to be in this row, let's make it more accommodating to them so they can put their feet up.
They're not that nice.
Exactly. They're not that nice. And I couldn't figure out why else would they do that. I was literally the only row that they did this for. So I sit down, and now it's just the clock is ticking. Everyone walking towards me, I'm just praying that they keep walking past me, that they don't make that turn. And there were a couple times where they made eye contact with me. And I was like, oh, no, they're going to ask me to move because they're going to point to the seat on. But they didn't. They kept going. And I kid you not, Jackson, they had just said, we're just about ready to close the doors. There were just a few people who were walking by. And guess what? The second to last person who was walking toward, guess where they went?
Next to you?
Into my row. Now, thankfully, they didn't sit in the middle seat, and it was just one person. So we went back to the original, which I had, pretty much accepted that there was going to be someone at the far end. But I had the glory of the idea of putting my feet up, which would be better than first class to have an entire row to yourself. I had that for just, 20 minutes, 30 minutes as people were boarding. And the second to last person was the one who sat there. And guess who this person was? Remember that Jesse Waters on the street segment in Seattle in which the woman gave the weird look and it became a meme? Do you remember that woman? I am.
If I saw it, probably.
Yeah,
but.
Everyone remembers it other than you. I am convinced, number one, it was her. Number two, she was watching MSN or MS Now the whole time. And this is what was freaking me out, because it was the emergency exit. You know how they always ask you if you're willing to help in case of an emergency, and everyone lies and says, yes, they would, when the truth is, I'm out first before all of you, and what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So this woman, I swear to you, didn't look at the emergency pamphlet once or twice or three times even. She looked at it multiple times, not even before and during the flight attendant asking all of us. She was looking at that thing mid-flight, which was making me wonder if she knew something no one else knew.
What's going on?
Why does she keep looking at this thing? Why is she so concerned about whether or not this plane is going to crash and she's going to have to know how to operate this emergency exit? It was really freaking me out. And so the entire time I kept sort of side-eyeing her to see whether or not she was planning something. And the only thing she was doing was planning which liberal garbage to watch on the live TV screen. Thank God we were otherwise fine. Except I had to listen to her. Just like she was talking to herself. I couldn't quite understand what she was saying, but she was I wonder if she was just mentally ill.
Well, if he's watching MS Now, there's a good chance of that.
Right. That's the entire audience for MS Now. 1-800-465-8770. You're listening to The Jason Rantz Show.
Thanks for calling CM Heating.
Aren't you the company that gives away free furnaces?
That's us. Buy a qualifying high-efficiency cooling system and the furnace is free.
Wow.
Yeah, and our home comfort advisors are tax credit and rebate specialists, so they'll handle the rebate for you.
Go to CM Heating for better comfort, lower bills, and a free furnace you'll love for years. Get your free estimate for furnace replacement at cmheating.com. And remember, for furnaces, fireplaces, hot water, and total home comfort, including electrical,
There's no beating CM Heating.
Guy Benson here. I've been telling you about this journey I'm on to get healthier, to lose a few pounds, overall feel and look better. Enter the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic, headquartered in Kirkland. You can do this program, though, wherever you are. I did a 15-minute consultation with Dr. Coogan and his team. They were great. I decided to get on board, and the results have been amazing so far. As of late last week, Adam and I combined 21 pounds lost in less than 2 weeks. Christine, you're doing this too. What have you been feeling?
Guy, in less than 2 weeks, I am down 6 pounds so far. But the best thing about this diet is truly the fact that I physically and mentally feel so much better.
All right, so if you're in this situation and you want to maybe learn more, at least schedule a 15-minute phone call with Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. Go to eastsideweightlossclinic.com, at eastsideweightlossclinic.com. Dr. Ryan Coogan, D.C., results may vary.
The stock market was on fire in 2025 due to AI and tech stocks. Now is the time to set a strategy for 2026. It's a good opportunity to lock in those gains and invest into a stable platform. With $8 trillion in cash sitting on the sidelines, investors are either scared or unsure where to go. Hi, I'm Scott Rireka, CEO of Legacy Group Capital in Bellevue. Legacy Group Capital develops local real estate, lends money, and shares the profits with our investors. Diversify with Legacy Group Capital. Invest into our Northwest Fund, which is currently delivering 9% on a fixed rate term. It's our flagship fund for 19 years with zero investor losses. And yes, we do accept IRAs. Find out why 1,300 local investors have invested over $350 million.
Legacy Group Capital at legacyg.com. This is not investment advice. Investments available to accredited investors only. Details at legacyg.com.
Endless hours of research, seeking referrals, dozens of calls. Hiring the right attorney can be a challenging process during an already difficult time. JP Pendergast with Pendergast Law explains.
In Washington State, Tom, there are thousands of attorneys to choose from. Referrals and online research can be helpful, but discovering the right attorney requires a conversation. It can be hard to identify integrity and authenticity without that interaction.
So, what do you recommend?
We encourage anyone looking for personal injury representation to call for a free consultation with our team before making a decision simply based on referrals or online research. Accident victims need an attorney that listens, demonstrates honesty, and is genuinely understanding of their unique circumstances. The care, attention, and preparation that our firm provides throughout the case mirrors the effort involved when taking on the insurance companies.
Save time and avoid mistakes after an injury. Contact the caring and compassionate team at Pendergast Law.
If you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident, call Pendergast Law. We can help.
File with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. TurboTax helps you get your biggest refund, and then Credit Karma helps you do more with it. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Seattle Red on 770 KTTH Seattle, 97.3 KIRO FM, HD3 Tacoma Seattle, 94.5 K233 DT Eastwood, 33 BU Seattle.
This is a Fox News alert. A person of interest detained. I'm Lisa Lacera. Sources tell Fox News the person has been detained in connection with the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, and the FBI's elite hostage rescue team is in Tucson. Earlier, the Bureau released video doorbell images of a potential suspect in Guthrie's disappearance. The person seen wearing a ski mask and backpack in